Hi. Wait, hold on. My mic is really far. Hello. Hello, humans. Can you guys hear me okay? Man, I need to get used to how this. Okay. Sorry if this is gonna sound weird for a second. Hello. Pair. There's Japanese on the screen. How's it going? But we're good. Fernie, hello. Jerry, hello. Wither, hello. Aaron, hello. Frizzatica, hello. Tamas, hello. Ryan, hello. Lawrence, hello. Did I already say hi, Jerry? Jerry, hello. Isaac, I think I already said hello to you too. Hello. Magic, hello. I think that's everybody. Breakfast, hello. I'm sorry, Isaac. I still don't speak Spanish. I'm sorry. Time to get upscale and full screen to get read on screen. I know we'll zoom in a little as we work on this. So tell you guys a bit. Let me put some background music because you know what else? We gotta have some good music. Wow, I'm sorry about being late. I was doing some stuff right before, so I was like, time. So give me a second. I had everything set up like a couple hours ago, but it should be okay. Music. Can you hear this? There we go. Not too loud, because we're gonna be studying. This is a little loud. There we go. That's not too loud, I think. If it's too loud, let me know and I'll turn it down a little. But this will be a nice relaxing stream to lurk in while I'm putting together my new scale model. Exactly. Good. What kind of scale model is it? Music good, I'm glad. Okay, so I'll give you guys a little rundown of my project, what we have to do for class. So we have this short story. It's actually, yeah, I mean, it's a short story, and we have to translate it. So we're working on like a translation unit, or we were working on this translation unit that has to do more with, like, when you translate from another language, sometimes things, like, for example, let's say you're translating from Japanese into English, sometimes things are really awkward, right? Like, there's concepts that don't exist in, like, Western cultures or English, like, the English language conceptually, or there are ideas that don't really, like, translate well, or, like, you translate it, but it sounds so stiff and not, like, something anybody wants to read in English because the writing style is just so bleh. So, here, let me move this in the way. Okay, so so one of the goals of today's exercise, like this exercise for my class, is to translate in a way that is more natural to an English speaker to be reading. And that's what makes a good translation to some degree, right? Not just like how well can I match the original, but how well can I make it sound natural in the language I'm translating to. So actually I'm really excited about this assignment because this is kind of what I do and think about a lot when I'm translating music and I'm translating lyrics for the covers I make, right? You guys know I used to make, right? I make a lot of English covers and I do all the translation for those covers myself. And those are one of my goals, is like not just accuracy to the original song, but like how much can I make it sound like normal as in like it sounds like normal English or like natural English. So I'm really excited about doing this with you guys. Well, so what I'll do first is I'll kind of go through the song vids. I'll be doing more, don't worry. It's just been really busy with school, and you guys know I like translate, sing, comp, edit, mix everything together myself, even the video and stuff all myself, and it just takes a lot of time, and I don't got that kind of time sometimes nowadays because I'm not full-time. If I was full-time, you'd see me putting out a song every like 2-3 weeks or every month. But yeah, right now it's a little tough. But that said, today what we'll do is we'll first go ahead and read through this really briefly, and I'll kind of translate or explain kind of what's going on, because we already covered that in class, but we'll spend most of today's stream actually kind of writing it in English and making it sound kind of natural in English. So taking what I explained to you verbally with like long sentences and making it a natural sentence you can read and understand in English. So yeah, that's gonna be the goal. Chichi, hello, welcome. 一応日本語で説明しようかな、今日の。なんかこれはですね、私の日本語の授業のプロジェクトなんですが、この短編小説を英語に翻訳したところで意味だけ伝わるみたいな感じより、その英語母語の人を読んだ時も自然な英語、自然の話で感じるような翻訳を作ることが目標なんですね。で、結構私歌ってみた動画を投稿してましたね。で、投稿するのが好きだけど、で投稿してまして、でその結構英語で歌ってみた、日本語の曲を、もともと日本語の曲を英語に翻訳して英語で歌ってみたっていうことをやってましたが、でその翻訳やってた時も結構オリジナル、その原曲に合わせた翻訳だけではなくて、英語母語の人を聞いた時も 自然な英語の曲みたいな感じで聞こえることを目標でやってましたので、結構似てるプロジェクトなんで、すごいなんかすごく楽しみにしてますね、この授業のプロジェクトで。今日は多分他の皆さんが理解できるようにちょっとだけこの小説簡単になんか説明することにして、その後はもっとだけ今日の配信はもっとその英語での翻訳を集中しようと思います。はいはいはいはい。The stream was made with the assumption that we as the general chat can understand Japanese. No, this is pretty, I think this might be pretty difficult Japanese for a non-native speaker who's learned a lot of Japanese. I think this is okay. It's not easy, but it's not hard, I don't think either. But I think for like someone who's never really learned Japanese, this might be a little bit high level wise. I think this is around maybe N2, N1 level. Maybe N2, not N1 necessarily. I think maybe N2 level. I think this is probably completely normal for N1. I think for N2 it's like, yeah, the N2. I'm not sure. I'm not actually sure. I passed my JLPT N2 7 or 8 years ago. I took it a long time ago. I don't remember it. I don't really remember even like what I did. I just remember I did really bad on the reading writing section and I did fantastic on listening. I think I missed only 1 point on the listening. I think it was like 59 out of 60. So I know that listening is my better skill, but reading, writing, and speaking are things I struggle with a bit more. So those are things I want to improve. But speaking a little better than my reading, writing, but my reading, writing is really bad. これは皆さん何の日本語能力試験のレベルなんだろうって聞いてるところで、2級かな2級ぐらいかなって思いますけど、私2級受けたのは結構前なんで、7年前 ?8 年前だと思うんで、よく覚えてないな。2級ってどんな感じだったっけ。でも私読解とかの方が苦手だったんですね。読解、文法、語彙とかは苦手だったんですね。漢字間違えてたね、よく。そういうこととか結構試験中バレてたね。だから今の授業を受けた理由も、もっと読み書きがちゃんとできるように、そしてもっとちゃんとした日本語を話す練習するため、私普通に使ってる日本語とか友達とかと親しい人とかと結構砕けたで間違ってる日本語ばっか使っていますので、それをちょっと直したいなと思うんで頑張りましょう。やっぱたくさん読む人がうまく喋ったりするできる人じゃないかなと思いますね。Like, don't you guys think that the people who read a lot, like, think of the people around you, the people who are like the best at speaking and stuff, like in general, with any language, are people who've read a lot in that language, right? Like, I think of all the really like eloquent people that I know in my life, and they're all people who love reading. I don't know if it's like a correlation or like a causation, but I kind of feel like not only does reading a lot also help improve your writing and your understanding, but I also think it affects your speaking skills. Yeah, I'm not sure. Sorry, I have a bit of a cold. Sorry, my nose is kind of stuffy. I'm sorry. Okay, so 始めましょう。これですね。So let's go ahead and start reading. Now that I've done like my long intro, I want to show you something cool about this. This is actually a whiteboard. Did you know that this is a whiteboard? This is a whiteboard. Yeah, this is a whiteboard. So people are like, what row, what whiteboard? I don't see anything moving on it. Well, you know what? Let me show you. Let me show you the awesomeness of this whiteboard. Give me a second. It's loading on my little thing. On my little thing. Ready? Hello? Is it showing up? Is my writing not even showing up? What? Excuse me. I am attacked. Oh, there we go. It took a second. Technology. Yeah, hello, that's me. That's me writing. Yeah. So we'll go ahead and go through this. We'll kind of like read slowly through it because I am not good with all the new vocabulary I learned in this thing and I still need time. But we'll go through go ahead and read this. So this is actually a really interesting story, and I think it's gonna it's a very cultural. I think it's like quite a cultural story too. Also, I was kind of thinking about how appropriate the story is for stream because it has some how do I say it? Like references to like concepts in society that are a little difficult. And this is written quite a while ago. I don't remember exactly what year this was written, but it has some concepts that I think are things that a lot of us would disagree with nowadays and things like that. But I think it's still a really interesting translation exercise, which is why my teacher probably gave it to us. But so the title of this is Yoaki Utsuwa. So Yoaki, you probably, if you're in N4, N5, you probably know the first couple characters, but Yoaki is like a weaker or like a fragile. It means fragile, and then Utsua is like a container. Yeah, so fragile container, fragile. Think of it like a fragile vessel. Yeah, so Utsua is a vessel. Yeah, so that's kind of what the story is about, and we'll go through it and talk about what that looks like. But you have to be patient with me because I cannot read very fast vertically. This should be a regular thing. Teaching us to read on N2 or N3 or N2 level should be a good content for your channel. You know, I thought about doing like N3, N4, N5 level content, but I'm not very confident in my Japanese. Not like that I can't use Japanese, but that I know proper Japanese enough to teach it to somebody. Yeah, if it was other subjects, there's a couple. I used to tutor for work, like as a job, as a part-time job was tutoring. But so I feel confident in like the stuff I used to tutor, but like, am I good enough at Japanese to be teaching anything? I don't know. So yeah, that's kind of where I am. Okay, so let's go ahead and read line by line and kind of talk about it. You have to be patient with me as I read. ちょっとだけ文章なんかそれぞれ一行一行読みますが、私の日本語が下手ですいませんね。すいませんね。アクセントとか間違ってる絶対。でも頑張ります。はい。So let's do it together. Okay. Oh yeah, so the story is by Kawabata Yasunari-san. Yeah. So right here. This is the author's name. This is the title. It's vertical, and we're gonna go through this. It's only 2 pages, so we'll try to do at least half today. If we get to the end, that'll be nice, but we'll start with half. And then we'll translate it, and then we'll maybe start with the next half. Usually when I translate music, I go through the entire song first, read it a few times, and then I start translating. Because if ideas kind of come up multiple times in the story, I want to understand how they're used throughout the story. So in general, I recommend if you're ever translating anything to read through the whole thing. So we'll read through the whole thing, but we might translate only half today. I recognize the kanji for river noise. Let's go. I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud. They gotta start somewhere, bro. Yeah, you learn a little bit at a time. Also, if you read a lot, they say you get better at kanji. So let's go ahead and read through the first line. So it says, 町の十字路に葛藤点があった. So, does anybody know what machi is? I apologize if my accent's a little off. There's pitch accents in Japanese, and for me, if I didn't learn them younger, like as a kid, usually I have them wrong. If I learned them a lot around me growing up, then I usually have them correct. But if I didn't, then I have it wrong. Because when you learn things later in life, you sometimes don't learn it properly. Anyway, does anybody know what machi is? City, yeah, city. It can mean town. Any kind of, when you think of city in English, usually you think of like maybe a more bustling area. A machi doesn't have to be like a really bustling area, but it can be. Yeah, so a town, a city, yeah. So jujiro, does anybody know what a jujiro? Does anybody know what juji is? Does anybody know what juji is? Jujiro is one word, but like juji kind of explains what jujiro is. Does anybody know what juji is? Wait, hold on. Why am I doing this like this? Why don't I zoom in? Why don't I make this easy for all of us? Why don't I zoom into this line? Right here. This thing right here. This thing right here that I'm about to highlight. Nope, that didn't work. That didn't work how I thought it would work. Well, this word right here, does anybody know what it is? Let's do this. There we go. My bad... Wow! My not straight lines. There we go. Yeah, does anybody know what jujiro is? Me know. Juji is literally like a sign that looks like the letter, the character ju. Ju means 10, but it like, do you see how it looks like a plus sign almost? So juji do, ro means like a street. It's a street, right? Or a road. So juji do means like a road that looks like that number 10 in Japanese, which looks like a square, or sorry, a plus sign. It's a crossroad. You're really close. Intersection. Yeah, intersection. So it's close to intersection, but not exactly intersection. It's a corner or a crossroad. It's a crossroad. Yeah. Jujiro. Yeah. So machi no jujiro. No is like the particle for like it belongs to something, right? So the town's a crossroad or like a road that intersects in this way in a town. And so then like something happened there. So kattoten is really good. This is a really difficult word, but it's like an antique shop. It's an antique shop. Yeah, the city's crossroad, and then there is this kind of store. Ten or mise. This is also read mise, but ten is store, right? Kattoten is a pretty difficult word. Like I learned it for the first time because I hadn't really heard it before. But kattoten is an antique shop. Antique shop. Yeah, let me actually look up what katto only is. I've only heard kattoten. I've never really heard katto on its own, but I wonder if it's just antique. Katto. Katto. Kattoten. 出てない。骨董店。すみません。いや、骨董店だ。わ、全く読めなかったね。骨董店じゃないね。骨董店。Sorry, okay, wait. Here, let me write it down because I'm not pronouncing it. 骨董店。骨だね。So this first character is actually, like, if I remember correctly, this should be the character for bone. Ah, it's not writing! Wait, my G. 骨董. It's not even showing up, my writing. Do you see it? Do you guys see that? Is that visible? Koto? Can you see it? Should I zoom in more? I feel like I'm zoomed in a lot. Maybe this is not as clear as I think it is. Can you guys read that? Can you guys read my handwriting? The small green letters? Koto? Man, kanji is hard. I'm already suffering and we're in the first line. Kototen. There we go. I kept saying katoten. There we go. I was looking at this, I was like, am I reading this wrong? Is it bone kotsu? And then I was like, I'm reading it wrong. I know what it means, but I can't read it. It's kototen. So this is bone. I don't know this character, and this is store. I don't know what the second character is. The second character is red toll, but I've never used it before. Curious and objects dart. I see. Let's see. Yeah, it's an antique shop. So at least I got that right. I'm proud. I'm proud. Kototen. So. Kototen. Yeah, the first character is actually a pretty common character, and I think it shows up a lot in N3, but it just means bone. So the first character is, sometimes you'll read it as hone. Hone. It means bone. Like the bones in your body. So that's the character, the first character. The second character is a character I haven't really seen much, and I'm looking it up right now. And it says that it means the word correct. Or like to correct something, like when you fix something. And then the last character is a character that is probably N5. You should probably know it. It's a really common character, but it's mise or store. And you'll see it a lot. Like when you're walking around Japan or when you're traveling, you'll see the character for store a lot, right? So kototen is an antique shop. I guess if you try to go literal, it's like bone correction shop. But that's a little hard to think of it that way. I'm sure there's like another meaning for bone, but kotsu can also be kind of like the leftovers of something. So I think it's like a leftover. Think of it more maybe like a leftover correction shop. Not exactly a bone correction shop, but a leftover correction shop. There is a tsu. Yeah, it's a tiny tsu though. It's a tiny tsu. It's not a big tsu. So when the tsu is small like this, you kind of double the pressure on the second. How do I describe this? So this is ko. And this is a small tsu, right? And this is to, and this is u, right? So when you read this, you don't read it kotsuto, you read it as kotto, so it becomes like a double letter. Like this. You end up reading it like this. Does that make sense? Kotto. So you don't read it kotsuto, you read it kotto. Yeah. And then this last character is attached on for things like store. Yeah, so kototen is an antique shop. And it's interesting because like sometimes when you look at characters, you can kind of figure out the meaning based on the little specific characters that are there. But I think this one's a little bit harder to figure out just from looking at the characters. Because you might look at it first and you're like, correcting bone store? Is it like an orthopedic shop? But that's not exactly what it means, right? Yeah. The next line should elaborate the first one if the meaning wasn't clear, right? Yeah, no, I think the next line, actually I think the meaning of this line is quite clear. So let's so far we have that there's this crossroad in this city, And at that crossroad, because ni is like at that point, right? At that place, it's like a particle for location. So, or like in that crossroad or near that crossroad, there is this antique store. Ga atta means like it was there, right? So, nani nani ga atta. Like when you go to the store, you might ask like, I don't know, like you might ask your mom, like, choco aru? Like, choco aru no? Like, do you have chocolate? Like, do you have or there exists? And this is a very common thing that I think most of us know, right? Like that. Sorry, my nose. That common thing that most of us know, but like this is just saying that at this like crossroad of the store, or sorry, at this crossroad of this town, there was the store. Yeah. Does that make sense? Does the first line make sense? My pronunciation mistakes aside, because I am nervous. I'm nervous right now for some reason. Was or is? This is was. This is was. Is aru. Is just aru, right? Aru is, right? Actually, aru is like both present and future tense technically. Like Japanese has both that. It has both present and future tense. But atta is past tense, right? So the story is being told in kind of past tense. But you know what's really interesting about Japanese writing that's really different from English writing? You know, in English, the convention is you don't change tenses in the middle of writing, right? Like, I remember growing up in like middle school, high school, I used to get marked down on my essays for changing tenses. My teacher was like, yeah, just mix past tense and present tense unless you're going back in the you know, what is it, back in time or something. Like, yeah, just change tenses. But in Japanese novels, and this is one of the things we kind of like talked about in class, it's really normal to change tenses. It's really normal to change tenses. So this first line is in past tense, yes. So, 町の十字路に骨董店があった。骨董店じゃないね。毎回骨董店って言ってるわ。骨董店があった。So, this is in past tense. So, this person is, whoever's talking is saying that they're... Yeah, so you know what's interesting about your translation though, Lawrence? There used to be an antique store at the city's crossroad, but I don't know... Yeah... That's right. That's a correct way of saying it. But I wonder if in English we say that, it almost seems like we're trying to say that it's not there anymore, right? There used to be a store at this crossroad, and now we're like, but it's not there anymore. Like, I think instead of used to be, I think it's easier to say there was, because was can be more like it's still there. It's hard, right? But that's kind of the start. So that's the first sentence. Does that make sense for the first sentence? Are we good? Should we go to second sentence? Are we good at first sentence where I keep saying this character wrong? 骨董店骨董じゃない骨董だ骨董店なんでいつも骨董って言ってる私コツだもんカツじゃないなんか食べたいかなとんかつとかI'm thinking of food, guys. That's why I keep saying katto. Maybe that's what's happening. Okay, next line. Yeah, let's go to next line. Okay, so this line's a little longer. Whoa. Let's see. Yeah, this line's a little bit longer, so maybe we'll read a little bit at a time. That'd be easier. Does that make sense so far? It's a pretty simple start once you know the words. I think once you know the words, the grammar in that sentence is really straightforward. Okay, good. Where is the... Okay, so the next line kind of is continuing the kind of author. It seems like so the story here so far is just that the author is talking about this crossroad, right? Okay. なんだっけ陶器の観世音の像が店と道路の境に立っていた So, does anybody know what toki is? I think it's a word that some people might know. Toki. Especially if you're into like older Japanese like pottery, you might know what toki is. Does anybody know what toki is? This word right here? Toki. Me hoping I'm saying things right now because I'm nervous. Toki. Anybody know toki? Toki? No, toki. So, toki is ceramics. It's ceramic. So like a ceramic, like a dinnerware? Ceramics. So toki is just ceramics. It doesn't have to be dinnerware. It's just anything that is ceramic in how it's made, right? So like a ceramic, I don't know, like a ceramic paperweight or like a ceramic. Toki is the name of the material. It literally means ceramic, right? In English, sometimes when you say ceramic, usually you're referring to pottery, but ceramic here is being used for like the material. It's made of ceramic, like metal. Yeah. When you're pronouncing slowly in Japanese, you remind me greatly of the voiceover for the train stations in Japan. まもなく発車いたしますとか。Yeah, I'm glad. Yeah. I'm glad it's a comfortable to listen to. Toki, yeah, spelled like Toki. Yeah. It's a long O sound. So the first it's Touki, but you pronounce it Toki, right? Like I think this is a bit more basic Japanese. I think people will know, but if you by chance don't know, which is very, very okay. Wow, sorry guys, it's a little laggy. Just a little laggy while I'm writing. Give me a second. Toki. Yeah. Do you guys, we saw this character earlier, right? We saw this character earlier. Do you guys recognize it? But you notice that, do you notice that it's the same character we saw earlier? Here, I'll move back really quick so you guys can see. But one of the things that I think people really struggle with Japanese, and I struggle with in Japanese, is that the pronunciation of the same character changes often, right? So here it was Utsula, but here it's Ki. And that's another pronunciation of this character is Ki. So it still means the same thing, right? Still is a vessel, but here it means it's used in this, like, jukugo, it's used in this compound, and it means ceramic. So kanzeon is a really complicated concept, I think, and this is one of the challenges, I think, of this translation, which is why our teacher gave it to us. But has anybody heard of kanzeon? Like, it's a Buddhist concept, and I don't really talk about religion and stuff in my stream, so we're not going to be talking about religion exactly, but it's a concept that I don't think that you would really hear of unless you're like familiar with Asian cultures. And I mean Asian cultures broadly, like not just like East Asian, but like Southeast Asian and South Asian cultures. I think sometimes we'll have something like this, but it's a protective deity, but it's a very specific like protective deity. So a kanzeon often looks kind of feminine, but it's not masculine or feminine. So I'll show you guys a picture. Actually, I was gonna download it. I forgot to download it. Kanzeon, but has anybody heard of it? Kanzeon? It has I think it's there in like Chinese culture too. But it's like, sometimes it looks kind of like a Buddha statue, but it's not really a Buddha statue either. It's hard to find a clear picture of a kanzeon. ちょっと待ってね. I thought I had it downloaded, but I guess not. It's like so it's like this here. I'll just bring one up that I think is like easier to see. So save image. Kanzeon downloads. Here, let me put this on screen. Maybe this will make it easier for people to add image. Kanzeon. Okay, browse. Downloads. Kanzeon. So it looks like this. So you notice how it looks kind of feminine, like it maybe saying it is kind of rude, but like this figure looks kind of feminine, but actually I don't think, from what I understand, is that it's like this figure isn't supposed to be feminine or masculine. It's just a deity. It's a figure. So just think like broadly for the sake of the story that it's this figure that looks kind of feminine, and in this case, we have one that's made of ceramic. It's a ceramic version of this figure. It's a ceramic kanzeon, ceramic version of this figure, and it's supposed to usually be this kind of like protective deity. Yeah, it's just like this watchful deity, and it's supposed to, yeah. I think it's easiest to just simply call it like a protective deity. I don't know how else to describe it. So that's what we're talking about. So at this crossroad, right? We're still talking about this crossroad. Toki no kanzeon no zo ga mise to doro no sakai ni tatte ita. So, does anybody know this character right here? Zo? Anybody know? Anybody know Zo? I think this is a more straightforward. Does anybody know this character, Zo? Nobody knows Zo? Zo? Nobody know? It's okay if we don't know. That's okay. We'll figure it out. I can explain it. But has anybody heard of Zo? Okay, so Zo is a figure or a statue, or it's it's a statue. It can also be used for like other concepts, but in this case where it's being used for like a statue or a figure. It's a statue, exactly. Akazuki-san, yeah, it's a statue. So Toki no kanzeon no Zo. So now putting those three kind of new words we've learned together, what does that mean? We learned no earlier, the grammar part for no earlier. So, 陶器の完全音の像って言うと何ですかね? Like, what does that mean? Can anybody say? Guess what it means? Anybody? Anybody? I'm still learning the alphabet so I can really help. That's okay. We learned that Toki is ceramic. Kanzeon is this particular deity. Let's just call it Kanzeon. Let's just keep calling it Kanzeon in English. And then Zo is statue ceramic figure. Exactly. Yeah, Lawrence. It's a ceramic Kanzeon figure. Ceramic Kanzeon figure. Yeah. I am here with you. It's okay. It's okay. So it's a ceramic Kanzeon figure. And then we'll read the rest. が店と道路の境に立っていた. So, mise we learned, I explained earlier, but we learned it just now. We read a different reading for it. We learned it as 10, but here it's mise, and it means the same thing. It means shop, right? To doro, we learned this character earlier too, right? We learned it in the jujiro, like the crossroads. We know that this is road, and this together just kind of means the same thing. It means road. No sakai is... Sakai, this word has a lot of different meanings, but in this particular case, we have like the meaning of like, it's at the border. So think of it as like, this is like the crossroad, right? And let's say there's a store right here, and the statue is like between the store, and it's like at the border between the store and the road. So it's like right here. It's like this is standing right there. It's right there. That's where the statue is. It's like that dot. Do you see it? Is it visible? Do you see that? So, sakai means like at the border of something or between something. Kanzen, one of the varying forms of Buddha. Yeah, exactly. So desu ne, Unicorn-san. So. Yeah. It's a form of Buddha, but it's part of like the Bukkyo no. So. Unless you read the full sentence, it will change. Yeah, it's okay, it'll change, but yeah, so not corner exactly. Well, we don't, so this is an interesting part. It doesn't have to be corner, but since we're talking about an intersection, I kind of understood it to mean kind of right here. Maybe it could be a little further out, but I just kind of thought it as like there's this crossroad and there's a store on the crossroad. And there's this statue that's like in the middle right there, right? Between the store, like it's standing in front of the store. Like it's in front of the store. Tatte ita means like it's standing, right? Tatsu means to stand. So this sentence, I might go through this a little faster. I think maybe it's a little bit of a different level, so I'll just go through it a little faster. So, Toki no kanzeon no zo ga mise to doro no sakai ni tatte ita is that there's the ceramic kanzeon statue, and it is kind of at this border, right? Border between the store and the street, and that's where it's standing. That's what the sentence means. It means that there's a ceramic figure that's standing between the street and the store. So I'm guessing it's like standing in front of the store, because the store seems to be kind of near the street, right? Because that's what they said earlier, that the store was near the street. So that's what this sentence means right here. We good? Standing in front of the store by the crossroad? Yeah. Yeah, it could be corner. Yeah, but yeah, standing in front of the store by the crossroad. Exactly. Yeah, so that's what the second sentence says. So let's go ahead and go on to the next sentence. Okay. Scoot up. And this one kind of crosses into the next thing, so I'm going to zoom out a little. I know it might be a little hard to read, but I'll read it out loud, so please bear with me. Okay. 12歳の少女の御嶽を持っている。So, 12歳, or wait, hold on. Yeah, 12歳. So, 12歳 is like, this is the number 12, right? 12 is the number 12, right? 12. And 歳 means age. So, 12歳の少女. So, 12歳, 少女 means like a girl, or like a young girl. So 12歳, and you guys know shoujo manga, right? For example. So 12歳の少女 here is saying like a 12-year-old girl, right? And here, we're moving back up for a second. And then here it says mitake. And mitake is like the size, or like the kind of like stature. Like think of it as like the way your body stands, or like how your figure looks. Omotteru means it has the features, or it has like the kind of figure of a 12-year-old girl. So that's what this line is saying. Make sense? Is there anything I should explain? 12-year-old young girl? Exactly, Lawrence, exactly. So 12-year-old young girl, and that's the kind of stature, or that's the kind of like size that this this figure is taking. So it's like probably kind of tall. Like if I'm standing, like, you know, I'm 5'2". If I'm standing next to it, it's probably like quite a bit, like it's not a small tiny little statue that's sitting out in front of the shop. It's quite tall, right? It's a bigger statue that's in front of the shop. Yeah, so exactly. So there's this 12歳の少女の見丈ねを持っている。So 見丈 I wonder if I should write, do you guys want me to write the pronunciation in? I don't know if you guys need that. If you want me to write it, I can write it. It's just gonna take a second though. My bad handwriting. Actually, I promise my handwriting is not that bad, but it's a little laggy on my screen, so it might take a second to appear. Mitake. There we go. That right there. Mitake. を持っている. So we got that. So far we have this antique shop on this crossroad, and in front of this antique shop there's the ceramics Kanzeon statue, and it's between the shop and the road, and that statue itself has this figure of like it has the size of like a 12-year-old girl. Okay, next line. Oh, this is a longer sentence. Okay. So wait, where was I? Sorry, I'm reading it off of my little paper because it's hard to read on the screen for me because my screen's kind of small. So I'm reading it off of my little notebook. Okay. Okay. 電車が通ると店のガラスと窓かこれガラス戸かな。電車が通ると店のガラス戸と一緒に完全温の冷たい肌も細かく震える。Yeah. Okay, let me go word by word. So 電車. Do we all know 電車? If you've been to Japan, you've probably ridden on a 電車, which means train, right? So 電車 is train. 通る means to like pass, kind of like where you're going through. Like when I say, oh, I like will pass by this store on the way to school, you can use the word 通る. Like I'll pass by something or pass by like a store, pass by an object, so that the train is passing by the store. So 電車が通ると, so as the train passes by, this store has this glass door, and along with that, like that glass door, well, this is not exactly a door, it's like a tobira, so it's like a sliding door. Think of it like a bit like I want to think of it as like a sliding door. I'm not sure exactly if it's it doesn't have to be a sliding door. It could just be a regular door, I guess. Yeah, it's a door, and along with this door, the statue shakes, right? Furueru is to shake or to like quiver. Think of it like from the vibration of the train. The train is going by, and the door and like the statue are kind of shaking. Like they're going like I don't know how to describe it, like gata gata gata. Like it's like they're shaking from the vibration, right? And the author's kind of describing this statue. 冷たい肌, which means like cold skin, which is kind of interesting because the statue hasn't it doesn't tell us that the author touched the statue or anything, but like it seems like the author like is imagining the statue's skin to be kind of cold. And then they're saying komakaku is like really, really tiny movements or really like fine movements. Komakai means like, think of yourself if you're like looking at something like the finer details. So you'd say like the komakai details, right? So komakai means like the finer or like the more minute things, and it's furueru is like to shiver, right? So it's shivering really like small shakes. It's a very descriptive sentence. Yeah. Does that make sense so far? 来ました。のじゃさんこんにちは。こんにちは。So yeah, 冷たい肌も細かく震える。So it's saying that this train is passing by in front. So when we go back to our little like drawing over here, when we go back to this little drawing over here, it's like the train is like going right here. This is the train right here. Right? Like, I actually use a different color. This is the train. Think of the Yamedote-sen. No, Yamedote-sen じゃないけど. But there's a store, there's this statue, there's this road, and there's this freaking train right across, like right here or something. And this train is going by, and everything's just shaking a little bit. Yeah, that's what's going on so far. Are you with me? The statue is covering bits of the letter here. I shall remove the statue. Now that we know ちょっと完全音の話なんでちょっとこれ消すね。なんかみんな分かったね、完全音って何って分かったのかな。これ消すわ。うん。Does this make sense? Yeah, so this is where we are. うん。So, poor statue and door are shaking. はい。And then, so this person says, その像が道に倒れやしまいかと。私は前を過ぎる何これどうやって読む過ぎるど前を過ぎるどに軽く神経を痛めた。これどうって読んですかねのじゃさん。どかなこれ。ちょっと待って。英語で書くんじゃないよ。I'm not sure about this one. How do I read this? 私は前を過ぎる旅あ、違う。旅でしょこれ。旅かな Wait, hold on. I think it's 旅 right? 旅ですかね。過ぎる旅でしょ旅でしょそう。どうじゃないでしょと思って。Okay, なるほど。See, this is why it's great to have like people who can read the characters for me. 私は前を過ぎる旅に軽く神経を痛めた。合ってますか私。ちゃんとこれ。合ってるのかなI understand what it means, but okay, so let's see. So, その像means that, like when you're referring to something, like if I'm talking about, like if I'm with a friend and I'm pointing to something and I'm like, do you know where, like have you been to that store? That store, if I'm pointing over to it, like my friend is next to me and like maybe standing a little closer to the store and I'm pointing right behind her. I'm like, hey, have you been to that store? You'd say そのお店, right? そのお店. So this is その像, which is like referring to that statue we were just talking about. So this author is looking at the statue, it's shaking, right, as the train goes by, and the author's like その像が道に倒れやしまいか, which means like she's looking at that statue and she's worried that it's gonna fall into the street. So 倒れる is like to fall or to topple over, like when it like just the statue just falls over, and 道に is like into the street, right? So she's worried it's gonna fall into the street. 倒れしまうなんだっけ倒れやしまいかと is basically, it's like a very specific grammatical way of saying that might, like, it might happen, something as unfortunate as it falling into the street, right? It might unfortunately, like, topple into the street. That's what this part is saying. 私は前を過ぎるたびに軽く神経を痛めた. This is the part that I think I had the hardest time understanding in class, but like 私は前を過ぎるたびに is like by the time I'm kind of taking some steps forward, she's kind of taking these steps forward to almost catch the statue because she's worried. なんか軽く心配するでしょこれはなんだろう軽く心配するっていう意味ですかね。神経を痛めたってあんま聞いたことないんですかね。心配するっていう意味じゃないかな。神経を痛めるっていうと。So this is like a very specific way of saying, but I think it kind of means like to be worried about something. ですよね。Word can be so complicated. So. It means to be worried. Like she's like starting to like move forward. Or I mean, I'm just saying she. It might not be a she. Who knows? It's the author of the story is like 体の中にあるもの神経なるほど神経体の中にあるもの神経そう神経 is like isn't it your it's like 神経 actually means your nerves, right? なんだっけその感覚がわかるための体の中のものですね。それは英語で nerve って言うんですね。はい。で神経を痛めるって言うとなんかそれはちょっと痛いなっていうところで、でも英語でそういう意味がないんですね。そのなんか神経を痛めるっていう同じ意味の言葉がないんで、もっと日本語でももっと簡単に説明したら神経を痛めるっていうとその心配するっていう意味ですかね。どうでしょうか。私もなんかわかるんだけどどうやって説明すればいいって英語でもわかんない。体を痛めるみたいなそうでしょうかね。体を痛めるみたいな感じかな。So it's like yeah, so for those, so this is one of the most complicated parts I think of the story for me is this entire sentence right here, like this entire like part. Sorry, I can't write. this entire part. Maybe I give up on trying to write straight. 神経 by the way is nerves. So 神経 just means like your nerves, like your nervous system, your nerves. 痛めた means to like hurt. It like hurts your nerves. But that's not exactly what this means. It doesn't mean like her nerves literally hurt, right? That's not what it means. But it's this concept of like kind of being worried about it. Like you're feeling like worried about it because like it's gonna fall, right? So how do I explain that? I don't even know how to explain that in English. Felt nervous? Yeah, to feel nervous. Yeah, 心配する. So. That's a good way of saying it. It just feels nervous. Literally nervous. But the way it's written in Japanese is so different. You say like your nerves hurt. Yeah, it's a metaphor. Yeah, but it means like nervousness. But isn't that kind of funny? Now that I think about it, I didn't even think about it. In English, we say nerve, right? そう。英語でも nervous の中にその神経っていう言葉が入ってますね。nerve って。でもなんか意味はちょっと違うね。ちょっと難しいな。この部分は英語に翻訳したときはなんだろう、気をつけて翻訳しないといけないと思う。And then the last part says そうしてみた夢。So it's like at the end, this person is saying, and that's the dream I was looking at. Like this dream that I had. So it ends with her like having described the street and this statue and this train kind of going by and her nervous about the statue that's gonna fall over, and that was her dream. That's the first part. That's the first part of the story. Does everything make sense so far? It's pretty simple once you understand it, but like as you're reading it, there are like so many words that I'm just like, what? Any questions? この最初の部分は結構理解しやすいと思いますね。なんか場所の説明かな？設定？その設定の説明かな？結構理解しやすいと思いますね。Are we good? Any questions? Does anybody have any questions? Anybody want to know anything? Do I need to explain any part? Are we good? You have any words you want me to explain? If you have any questions about specific words, you can let me know and I can try to explain them. Yeah, so that's kind of where the story starts. So let's go on to the next part. その最初の部分結構わかりやすいと思いますね。説明したの。その語彙が分かったら理解しやすいと思いますね。次の部分。パパってなんか進みましょう。はい。次の部分。完全音の体がまっすぐに私に向かって倒れかかってきた。わ、結局倒れたんだ。So, it starts the next line by saying that the statue ちょっと待って。完全音の体がまっすぐに私に向かって倒れかかってきた？ちょっと待って。So, like the statue's body, like she's talking. I'm just gonna say she for the person talking because I'm not sure. Well, I do know, but like at the same time, let's pretend I don't know. But I'm just using that. So anyway, the author is saying that this statue's like body came towards her and just faced towards her and like kind of moved in towards her. 倒れかかってきたっていうと本当に倒れたってわけじゃないんですね。なんか倒れようとしてるみたいな感じで、でも燃えてきた。燃えてる。それはちょっと怖いな。So basically, this part is actually really interesting. So it's saying that, so the statue, so this part is pretty straightforward, like the statue, right? We're talking about the statue. And it like just faced her head on. Like it just looked like it faced her, like the whole body moved towards her head on and kind of leaned forward. Like it leaned forward towards her. Like it's not actually falling over. So it's the same word she was using earlier, right? She's saying taore shimai kato. It's saying the same thing kind of, it's like leaning towards her. Like almost like imagine if someone's about to fall forward, they're leaning towards her. But that's what's happening right now. And this is in present. This is also kind of past tense, but it's like it doesn't have to be fully past tense. It's like it's happening right now kind of feeling. But it's in past tense. Yeah. Kind of scary, huh? Imagine the statue just turns towards you and is like leaning towards you and you're just like, what? What? ね。そう。じゃあ、それは最初の文章で、次の方は Let me see. 垂れるかなこれ。なんかこの字読めるのかなって思ってて。OK。長く豊かに倒れていた白い腕か倒れていた白い腕を突 突然ニューッと伸ばすと私の首に抱きついた。いや怖い。いや待って怖い。長く豊かに倒れていた白い腕。So the arms of the statue, I don't know how to describe it, but the arms of the statue are kind of really long. Like it has a lot of like arm length, and it's this like it has this like white skin because it's this ceramic statue. It's this the white arms of the ceramic statue, right? So the statue is facing her right now, and the long kind of endless white arms of the statue that were just hanging down suddenly like kind of come towards her. Like just the arms start moving towards her. 突然ニューッと伸ばすと、ニューッと is like onomatopoeia, but it's like 突然 means suddenly. Suddenly ニューッと伸ばすと like the arm started like stretching out. 私の首に抱きついた and it like wrapped around her neck. So 首抱きつく means to like hug or wrap around, right? So 首 means neck. So it's like it came and it wrapped around her neck. Like wrapped, like not the hands wrapping around her neck, but the arms included kind of wrapped around her neck. That's kind of a scary image, right? Imagine this statue. It's this ceramic statue that's not supposed to move, right? Statues don't usually move. Weeping angel vibe a little bit, right? A little bit. But the statue comes, the arms kind of like, it faces towards her and the arms kind of like start endlessly like reaching out and like wrapping around her neck. Like just they wrap around her neck. Think of it like a hug, but like imagine someone hugging around your neck with their arms. I think from a human it's kind of weird still, but it's like from a statue I'd be like, huh, I don't know how to feel right now. そうですね。で、そのなんだっけ、ちゃんと理解してるっていうと、その象の腕がなんかいきなり伸ばして、なんか象が伸ばして首抱きついたねっていうことで、長くなったね、腕だけがなんか妙に長くなったっていう意味なんですね。違うかな、合ってる？これ何？意味合ってますかね？理解したのかな私これ。長く豊かに垂れていた白い腕を突然ニュッと伸ばすと私の首に抱きついた。怖い。すごい。なんか想像できるんだけど、なんか怖いな。主人公なら。Yeah, so that's what's happening here. So far she kind of went to go help the statue, right? She like was kind of worried about it, so she started kind of like heading towards it. And like as she like basically like I guess she was kind of maybe already near the statue, because it doesn't really tell you where she started off standing. But like she's already kind of near the statue, and then the statue faces her and then wraps its arms around her neck. Great. Okay. 無生物の腕だけが生物になった不気味さと陶器の冷たい肌触りとで私ははっと飛びのいた。Okay, did I read that right? I don't know. This part right here is なんだっけ、無生物でいいか無生物か無ですかねこれ無生物 Like something that's not living. 生物 is like something living. Like when you're talking about something living, like a living item or a living 肌触り、無生物ですね。無か。無生物、肌触りか。座か。書いとこ。どこ？肌触り。待って。どこ？肌座か。肌触りじゃないか。なるほど。肌触り。OK。肌座は。てか字おかしい。私の字おかしい。すいません。ざわり。OK。なるほど。I will zoom in so you guys can see what it is that I'm writing. で、これは無か。これは、どこ字私の画面で。無。はい。So, something that's not living. 生物 is like a living thing. 生 means living and 物 means like a thing. So, living creature. And 無生物、無 means not. So it's like A in English, like when we say anonymous versus anonymous, right? So this is 無生物 literally means like not living. And so it's the arms of this not living creature, right? Started moving like it's living. And that feels really strange. Bukimisa is like the strangeness of that. Yeah. It's like creepiness. Bukimi means like creepiness. Bukimisa is like the nest part of it. So bukimi means creepy. Bukimisa means like creepiness. And it was creepy. Like she was like, wow, that's creepy. Toki no tsumetai hadazawari. Okay, I pronounced this wrong earlier, so I said hadasawari, but because there's a da before, it has to be za, is what Japanese speakers are telling me. I see. ありがとうございます、のじゃさん。なるほど。肌触りか。肌触りとで、なるほど。肌触りとで、私ははっと飛びのいた。その、なんだっけ、その生きていないものの腕が生きているものみたいになんか伸びてきて、ちょっと違和感というか、いや怖いというか、違和感かな。違和感で、そのなんだっけ、陶器のもののなんか肌が冷たくて、それ一緒になんかびっくりした。はっと飛びのいた。これ抜くなんです。抜くっていうか、抜くっていう字なんですね。これ書いてないけど、これか。ちょっと聞いてみよう。皆さん教えてね。ちょっと待って。これか。この字か。これか？違う、待って。あ、違う、これじゃない。待って。ちょっと合ってない。これか。ね、これか？合ってる？抜く？なんか引退の退？飛びのいたかな？そう、この字か。I think it's this character right here. So it's written in hiragana here, but I think that this is the original character right here. Yeah, to like escape from something. Tobu means to fly. I think this is a really common word. Like a flying tree. Like flying, just like something that flies, tobu. And like you like jump away from it. So it can mean like fly, but jump. It can also mean jump, like when you jump away from something. So, なるほどね. So, there's a lot going on here, but so the other thing in Japanese is that there tend to be really long sentences. So it's saying that the weirdness or like the creepiness of like something that doesn't move, having like moving arms all of a sudden, plus like to means along with or like and the fact that like the skin of this statue, the ceramic statue, is cold. Like she got surprised and she like jumped out of it. Like she jumped away, like jumped backwards. 飛びのいた。なんかびっくりしたね。飛びのいたね。そう。でびっくりして、she jumped out of its arms, right? Or jumped out of it. So let's see what happens next. So we know what's going on so far. It feels like we understand it really well, right? で次の音は聞こえずに完全音が道路に粉々に壊れている。And this is the part that's really interesting. So until now we were kind of talking in past tense, right? Like here this was past tense right here. いたは過去形。で up here it suddenly is like present tense. And then here it's kind of still like sort of present future tense. And then here it is past tense. And then up here it's kind of past tense. Here it's past tense, and then here it's still past tense, and then suddenly it is present tense again, right? 音は聞こえずに完全音が道路に粉々に壊れている。なんかですね、さっき皆さんに説明してましたが、英語ではですね、過去形となんか今の話とか、そういういるとかいたとか混ざったりしませんね。なんか逆に高校の頃とか小学校の頃からでも言えますが、中学校でも高校でもよく先生にロロちゃんはね、なんか本当にその形、その過去形とかを混ざったりして、なんか過去形と今現代の話とかいろいろ変に混ざったりしてるのを間違ってるよって、なんか点数取れてたね。なんかそれでなんか なんかマイナスになってねで英語でそうやってパストテンスとプレゼンテンスとかそういういるとかいたとか混ざったりするのがダメって思われてますね。なんか書き言葉的にでも喋ってるところでもダメって言われてますので、でも日本語で全然それ普通なんですね。なんかいろんななんかそういう過去形とか混ざったり本を書いたりするのは結構普通なんで、翻訳した時英語に翻訳した時そのことをそのまましたらちょっと違和感になるんで、どうやって書けばいいかっていうチャレンジも入ってますねということなんですね。でも面白い。英語ではそういうことはしませんね。しちゃダメ。何回も怒られたことありますね、私こうやって混ざったりしてSo yeah, it's kind of interesting here. The tenses change a lot, right? But in English, we're not allowed to do this. So I think one of the challenges we're going to have as we go forward is figuring out how to translate this in a way that doesn't make it feel like awkward to have the tenses kind of changing. So here, like without hearing anything, 音は聞こえずに, which means like 音 is sound, right? Like 音楽. You guys know the word 音楽? 音 means sound. 聞こえる means to be able to hear something, like when you're able to hear a sound. Here it's like 聞こえずに is a grammatical way of basically doing the negation or the negative of that. So 聞こえる means you can hear. 聞こえず means like you cannot hear or without being able to hear. So it's saying without hearing a sound, like without a sound, 関税音が道路に粉々に壊れている. Without hearing a sound, she kind of sees that like the statue has fallen into the street and has become like these fine pieces like sand. It's broken into these fine pieces like sand. 粉々 is onomatopoeia, but 粉々 is used for like small pieces, like really tiny pieces, like it's basically shattered, but not really big pieces, small pieces. It's shattered into a bunch of pieces, not like a few pieces. You think this giant statue falls and it'll break into a few pieces? No. It broke into a bunch of tiny pieces. 壊れている. 壊れている means it's broken, right? It is in the state of being broken. So it has become broken and it is lying there in tiny pieces in the street. And she didn't hear a sound when it fell or like when it went into that state, right? So that's what it means. The kind of interesting thing is this, この漢字が古いなんですね。なんかこれ授業で教えてもらったんですが、この漢字、なんかみんな先生に聞いて、先生、この壊れていると普通のなんか使う壊れていると漢字が何が違いますかって聞いてて、いや、これ昔の壊れるという意味で、なんか、ものによってその使う字が変わってましたねって、変えてましたねって先生が教えてくれましたが、So actually this character right here is kind of an old form of using break. There's a different character you use for break now. Here, let me see if I can write it. 壊れる。今の壊れるって多分今の壊れるはちょっと違うね。なんか使ってもこの字あんま使いますかね。よくわかんないんです私には。初めて見たんでこの字。Like the common character that people use for 壊れる is this. My thing is lagging. Yeah, this is I think what we usually use for. Wait, hold on, I wrote it wrong. 字が間違え、ちょっと待って。It lagged out. これが必要。なんか消えて、なんか書かないなこれ。待って、もっとでかく書こう。ちっちゃいとなんかラグで出ない。字が出ない。I write a little too fast and scribbly. これですね。壊れる？普通はこれじゃない？よくわかんない。どう？普通はこれじゃないですか。壊れるはこれしか見たことない。そう。なんか先生に聞いたら、この壊れるは初めて見ました。本当ですか？いや、なんか授業中でみんなもこの壊れる見たことないんですよって先生に言ってて、いや、これは昔の壊れるというか、昔はその壊れるものによって、例えば陶器が壊れた時かガラスが壊れた時かとか、そのものによって字が変わってたって、漢字が変わってたって教えてもらったんです。はい、初めて聞いた。知らなかったんで。で、この字が見たことがなくて、で、私そもそも漢字が苦手なんですね。で、そもそも漢字が苦手だから、いや、私見たことないって言うと別に大したものじゃないね。見たことないって言うとあんま字が苦手だから、私 昔から読み書きあんまできなくてあ、壊れているっていう今のところでなんかそれめんどくさいというより、あんま今の時代というか今のところでものによって字を変えることはないんですね。So actually, like a lot of the other people in the chat are saying who speak more natively are saying that they've never seen this character before used this way. And my teacher was saying that in the past, depending on what breaks, like imagine if like a glass item breaks versus a ceramic item breaks, or like something else breaks, depending on what you're describing as breaking, you would use a different character. I think probably glass and ceramic both use the same character, but like I'm thinking of like some other items that break. I don't know what else breaks. What's another item that breaks? I don't know. Something else that breaks that they would use a different character for it. But nowadays, like everybody just uses the same character, which is the one I just wrote. Maybe I should zoom in. I think it's not very visible. で、今はこれしかないんですね。これしかないんですね。This is the only one people really use. But this is also the same meaning. It means the same thing, is what my teacher was saying. 同じ意味だって教えてもらったんですが。でも、使い方はちょっと違いますね。で、これ、いつ書いた作品かよくわかんないんですね。それ、絶対教えてもらったんですが、完全に忘れてますね、私。すいません。完全に覚えてない。なんか、いつ書いた作品なんでしょうかね。で、これは面白いかと思いますが、でも、最も面白いところはね、さすがに、多分、この作家さんが、わざとこの字を使っているんじゃないかなっていうところで、でも英語で壊れるってこれしか一つの意味という言葉しかないんで、この書いた方がわざと選んだ言葉を英語で存在しない、その違いが存在しないところでどうやって表せばいいかってチャレンジなんですね。後で考えましょう壊れるっていう別の字を使うみたいに英語でないんで、どうやって英語で漢字とかはないんで、どうやってすればいいかはちょっと考えましょう後で。で、次は So we'll continue. So basically one of the challenges I think I'll have here is that the author probably used like an older character on purpose. Probably used this older character on purpose. But in English, we only really have one break. We say something breaks. We don't have like a different break for different things as much as we have different words for them completely that mean completely different things, right? We don't say like clothes break, we say clothes tear. But tear and break mean totally different things, even though they both mean like something kind of gets ruined, right? So like how would you translate this when like if the author used this character on purpose, like how would you translate that word? Because we don't have like two breaks, do we? In English, we have break. That's it. We have one word. How do I use a different word to describe the same thing? I have to think about that. That's gonna be a bit of a challenge. じゃあ続きましょう。と、そのかけらを彼女が拾っている。と is like and so continuing from what we just saw, and そのかけら is like かけら is pieces, like the pieces, those pieces. そのかけら、その is what we just talked about earlier, right? Like その像。Sono just means like those pieces, like the thing that she's talking about. Usually you use sono when it's closer to the person you're talking to, or like closer to someone you're pointing at. So in writing though, you use it to refer to something you've talked about earlier. So そのかけらを彼女が拾っている。彼女 is like that girl, like a girl. So this girl is there. Like this is an interesting thing. Is suddenly a girl appeared. This girl has appeared, and she's picking up these pieces. Hiroru is to pick up or to gather, to collect. Like when you gather things off the floor, like let's say you're gathering pebbles off the floor, you can use hiro. So this girl suddenly appeared and she's there and she's picking up these pieces. So suddenly this girl appeared. We have a new character. Suddenly someone appeared. I don't know how do I say? Is it a new character? Well, this girl appeared. That's the point. This sentence is very long. Okay. でこの部分は結構なんか彼女が現れましたね。なんか今まで彼女がなかったんですね。微妙 is so hard for me to understand and the word is hard to describe and confusing. Desmond, hello. みんな微妙。なんか視聴者さんが微妙っていう言葉は理解しにくいなって言ってますね。なんか英語で微妙っていう言葉ないね。やっぱ微妙って私でもなんか昔から使ってるんで、微妙っていう言葉の意味は何だろう。普通に使い方がわかるんだけど意味わかんないっていうかどうやって説明すればいいか。微妙 is like that's a really hard word to explain. Actually, 微妙 So hard to describe and confusing. So 微妙 means like, it's like, think of it as like a feeling, right? I think it's easier. 微妙は英語でそうそうみたいな感じかな。まあまあみたいな感じ。It's like so, like, yeah, so it can't, まあある程度そうそうみたいな意味ですね。なんか英語でも。So one of the other viewers are saying that like a way you can think of the word 微妙 is like, it's like so. It's like so, like, it's like, when you say something is 微妙, it's like, yeah, it's so. But it has a kind of like slightly negative meaning in it. Just a slightly negative connotation to it. It's like if someone asks you 食べ物どうだった？あ、微妙。なんだかその映画どうだったって聞かれたところで、あ、微妙って言ったら、それちょっとネガティブな意味が入ってないんですかね。どう思いますか皆さん。ちょっと私聞いたらそれ、ちょっと、いや、良くもなかったけど、なんか大変ダメでもなかったんだけど、ちょっとまあって感じだね。ちょっとわーって感じだね。って感じだね。いやーまあって感じだね。合ってますか？I think like if you watch a movie and you ask, you know, your friend asks you how was it and you're like like it's nah. It's not good or bad. It's like it just is. But when I hear it like it's almost like a slightly bad thing, right? Slightly bad. ちょっとだけネガティブ。普通だけど、普通でもね。普通っていうより少しでもネガティブが入ってないんですかね。私だけ？普通だけど、でも映画のこと聞かれたところで普通だったって言っても、普通は特に悪いわけじゃないんですかね。悪いわけじゃないけど、微妙って言われたら、ちょっとだけ、って感じじゃないかな。ちょっとだけ、よくなかったってちょっとだけ入ってないかな。どうだろう？It's kind of hard. I don't know. Yeah, I think I'll see what the view. I asked them what they think if it's like more negative. So if you say 微妙, it means like it's kind of normal. It's kind of so. It is what it is sort of feeling. But I almost feel like it's slightly negative. So usually you use it to describe things or like to describe like a feeling or a kind of opinion towards something. So if you're asked about a movie or if you're asked about food or if you're asked about how you feel about something and you can be like, 微妙. Yeah, わかんない微妙. Like I'm not really sure. 違う言葉の。No. そうですね。多分皆さんはその言葉打ったの違うんじゃないかな。5時じゃない？違う？私5時と思って話してたんだけど。微妙の微妙じゃなくて、微妙の微妙じゃない？違う？ Wait, Mina, sorry. I just assumed that you meant the word 微妙 like there's two 微妙. I think you wrote a different 微妙 and I assumed that you meant the other 微妙 because I don't really see this. 違うんじゃないかな。いや、皆さん何に打つと思ったんだろう。ちょっといや、微妙は違うんですよね。微妙な微妙。でもわざとじゃないと思うんで、これ。Mina, do you mean this character? Hold on. 微妙。Do you mean the one people use when they're talking about something being weird? Is that what you mean? Or do you mean like something pretty? Because I think, so the thing is what you wrote actually is referring to something kind of pretty. But I assumed that you meant the other one because you were asking about it. I assumed, because I get asked about it by other people. これ、なんか皆さんはこれ書こうってなかったんじゃない？違う？違う？ So it's basically a difference in presentation for English. Saying yes while excited is different from a somber. Yeah. It was I think of it like meh. I think of in my mind 微妙 like the other 微妙 means meh. Like meh, something is meh. 違うかな？微妙と微妙は違うね。そう。でもどっちだろう？ Yeah, Mina, you have to tell me which one you meant. Auntie, hello. Yeah, Mina, you have to tell me which one you mean. Do you mean like the one that's like pretty? Like you mean something's like pretty? Or do you mean like do you mean something that's like more like when people use it like when they're talking about describing like feelings of like something's weird or like off or like they're not sure, like it's kind of normal. You have to tell me which one. Yeah, something was off or meh is what I would refer to. Yeah, okay, that's what I guessed. So what you wrote was a little different. So the word that you wrote actually means like something's really pretty. Or I think that's what I always learned it as. Like something's really like gorgeous. But I think the first character is a little different. If you use it, they're pronounced the same way. They're both pronounced like 微妙. I'm sure they have maybe different accents. I just don't know what the accents are. But the one that I just typed, the first character I think is what you meant. Yeah, something was off from meh. Yeah, I think I would call it meh. I think meh is not even a word, guys. Meh is not even a word, but that's exactly how I feel. It is meh. It is simply meh. Like if someone asks me, how was the movie? And I'm like, it's meh. It feels mid. Desmond, oh my gosh, you're a genius. Yeah. It's like saying something feels mid. But you know what's funny? If you try to explain to someone mid means like middle, right? In a way, like it means like it's average or normal. That's not necessarily a bad thing. But when we use the word it's mid, it's almost like a bad thing, right? It's slightly negative. It's just very slightly negative, almost like you're not really sure how to feel about it. Like yeah. So I think like that's the exact way you would describe bibia. It's just this feeling of like it being average, but kind of like because it's average, you don't really like know like how you feel about it, and it's almost kind of negative. That's how I would describe it. Phew, complicated word. Yeah, how would a translator even translate that? I don't even know. How would you explain that entire 5 minutes of trying to explain this? I don't even know. Respect for translator. あ、大丈夫です。のじょさん、ありがとうございます。来てくださいまして、いろいろ教えていただきました。ありがとうございます。勉強になりましたよ。ありがとうございます。Questionable, dicey, I think dicey, questionable, yeah, there's like a lot of words kind of involved in that one word. Okay, so then let's continue reading because I need to finish this for homework. I need to actually finish this, guys. It's gonna take another couple hours, but I need to at least like go through reading it and start typing at least the first half today. I have my own I keep personal deadlines when I'm doing projects, and this isn't due until next week, but like I need to finish some of it so I can edit it. And get some time with it because I'm busy next week. I'm busy. Okay. 彼女の姿が現れたのに驚いて、何か弁解がましい気持ちで口を開こうとすると、ちょっと待って。飛んじゃったわ。Yeah, I read the wrong line. Hold on. Wrong line. I'm reading over here. Whoops. We're over here. Sorry. Wrong spot. 彼女が小さくしゃがんでキラキラ散らばった陶器のかけらを忙しげに拾い集めている。Okay, so 彼女 is that girl that just appeared, right? This girl appeared. 小さく is like is small. 小さい means small. So here it's describing the way she's crouching. So しゃがむ is to like しゃがむですね。しゃがむですね。しゃがみ歩きだ。しゃがむだ。でしょ? Yeah, so しゃがむ means like to crouch. Like when you crouch on the floor, you're crouching to pick something up, you crouch, and so she's crouched up really small. Like she's a smaller girl, so she's crouched really low to the ground. And now it's just so she's crouched low to the ground. That's where she is right now. And the next part is describing kind of the stuff on the floor. So キラキラ散らばった陶器のかけら. キラキラ means like sparkling. And 散らばった is like spread everywhere. It's like spread everywhere. So it's glittering and it's spread everywhere. Imagine ceramic on the floor and it's like spread out. It's everywhere and it's glittering. And it's describing that. So it's キラキラ散らばった陶器, which we talked about earlier, the ceramic, かけら, the pieces of the ceramic. So キラキラ散らばった陶器のかけら is the little pieces of the ceramic that have kind of shattered and they're sparkling everywhere on the floor. 忙しげに拾い集めている。忙しげ is like 忙しげはどうやって英語で説明すればいい？忙しいっては普通に like busily, like hurriedly and busily, like when you're really like rushed. 忙しげに拾い集めている。拾い集める means like 拾 is like what we talked about earlier, the word for gather. Like when you gather things off the floor, you pick up or collect things off the floor, like when we were talking about collecting rocks off the floor. 拾 is to gather, 集める is to put together. So 拾 is to like pick up, and then 集める is to put it together. So like think of it as like let's say you have your hand and you're taking rocks one by one and you're putting them into your other hand. So you're using, let's say, your left hand, you're holding rocks, your right hand, you're picking them up and you're putting them into the same kind of gathering them into the same place. It can be in your hand or it can be in like one spot on the floor. But 拾 means to like pick up, but 集める means to gather. So think of it as like if someone tells you, hey, can you pick up and gather the documents, like in class when the teacher says, hey, can someone pick up pick up and gather your classmates' things, or like classmates' homework assignments, you like don't just pick it up and then you just like kind of put it somewhere. You put them all together in like a stack and you take it to the teacher, right? That's kind of what this is describing. So hiroi atsumeru is to like pick up and gather. So hiroi atsumeteiru. So she's doing this. She's on the floor. She's like, so this girl is like crouched on the floor and she's like picking up and gathering up all these like little pieces of ceramic that have scattered everywhere. They're kind of glittering on the floor. Make sense? Make sense? We good? 微妙と微妙か。微妙と微妙か。ね。そう。Make sense so far? We good? Any questions? Any questions? I'll take them now. I know it's kind of small to see. Actually, you know what? Let me switch screens. I actually had a second screen ready. なんかさ、別の画面もなんか準備したんで、これでもっと見やすいかな。これでもっと見やすいかも。もう少し見やすいかな。よくわかんない。ほぼ同じサイズかな。まあごめんね。ちょっと字がちっちゃくてごめんなさいね。なんかこの画面で全部表せるのわかんなかった。Like, sorry if the characters are a little small. I didn't know how to fit everything onto the screen. It's kind of long. And it's vertical. So it's like, the screen is like longer horizontal than vertical because, screens. So, yeah. Anyway, does that make sense so far? So we are the story of this porcelain, this Kanzeon statue that fell over, shattered into the street, and this girl appears, and she's gathering it up. She's gathering these porcelain pieces up off the floor, right? This girl is like crouched on the floor, crouched tinily on the floor and picking these up. Okay, じゃあ次読みましょう。The part that I accidentally started reading because I skipped this line. Okay. 彼女の姿が現れたのに驚いて、何か弁解がましい気持ちで口を開こうとすると、目がはっきり覚めた。So the 主人公, the protagonist, the person who's talking, right, is watching this girl pick this up, and she was kind of surprised. She didn't even realize it. So like, 彼女の姿が現れたのに驚いて, like even the fact that this girl suddenly appeared, she's like kind of surprised. She didn't expect it. 驚く means to be surprised, right? Like to be startled. 驚いた. So she got startled because this girl appeared, and 何か弁解がましい気持ちで、弁解がましい is like this feeling of like wanting to explain what's like to like apologize, like when you want to apologize, like you want to explain what happened, like I'm sorry, like this happened, I'm sorry. So she like sees this girl picking stuff up off the floor that she probably caused it to fall over when she got startled because it started moving, right? Like the arms moved and hugged her and she got startled and she was like, what the? And she jumped back. It broke into the street, but then this girl is here and she's like really like hurriedly, like busily, almost maybe desperately picking up these pieces, right? And so this protagonist is like, wants to apologize. 弁解がましいっていうのは謝りたいっていうか、ちょっと説明しながらちょっと謝りたいって気持ちじゃないかな。So she wants to like apologize, and she口を開こうとする. So she opens her mouth. She opens her mouth with this plan to, like, she opens her mouth intending to apologize. She opens her mouth. And then suddenly, like, the scene gets cut, right? と、目がはっきり覚めた. Like, she was, like, super awake. Suddenly she woke up. And she was, like, completely awake. Like, not even, like, I'm drowsy, I'm kind of sleepy, I'm waking up. No, she just, like, full-on woke up. So that's what happened. So this was happening in her dream. Like, this whole setting was in her dream. And she says that, right? She said that earlier. This was all happening in my dream. And in this dream, like, the statue's arms started moving. They started to hug me. And I got startled. I moved back and they, everything fell and broke. And the interesting thing, right, is in Japanese, you don't always say the subject. So we don't actually hear her say I. But it's assumed that it's her that kind of caused it to fall. Even though it doesn't say that she caused it to fall, right? But that the kind of outcome of her jumping back is likely that it fell over, because all we know is that it was shattered on the floor after she had jumped back. And she didn't hear the noise either, so she didn't really hear it fall or shatter, but it had shattered. And then she sees this girl, like, picking it up, and she feels really apologetic, so she opens her mouth to say, like, I'm sorry, to explain herself. And she woke up. So that's where this first kind of section ends. Oh, 半分になった. Oh, お疲れ様. やった、半分に行けました. わかりましたって、まあ多分日本語で言ってもみんな理解してますね、全然。なんか英語で聞こう。Does everybody kind of get what's going on so far? We good? We good? Are we Gucci? Are we gotchi? Do we know what's going on? We good? You want to finish reading the story? So the second part actually is kind of interesting. It's more explanation. Explanation, or more like the author kind of thinking about what she just saw in her dream. Author, how do you say it? The 主人公, the protagonist. 主人公 means protagonist, by the way. 主人公 is like the main person that appears. Like that's kind of what 主人公 means. So we good? Okay, cool. Thank you, Magic, for the confirmation. Thank you. I know, sometimes studying is like everybody's just kind of focused, kind of doing their own thing, and no worries. I'll just keep going through like I'm doing it myself anyway. It's okay. It's fine. Okay, so here we go. Okay. 完全音が倒れてから一瞬間の出来事のように思える。一瞬間の出来事か。So 完全音が倒れてから means like that statue we were just talking about, right? It was called the 完全音が倒れる。We learned this. We've seen this word twice now. This is the third time we're seeing it. So 倒れる means to fall over, right? As we learned earlier. 倒れてから is like a grammatical. This is a grammar particle. It means since that time. So since it fell. So 完全音が倒れてから since it fell. 一瞬間の出来事のように思える。一瞬間 means like 1 second. It felt like a second. It felt like an instant. It felt like a moment, like a quick moment in time. It was an instant. It felt instant. なんかの出来事 means like a happening, like something that happens. So it's something that happened in an instant. のように思える。のように means like to be like something or to seem like something. Oh, like for example, it looks like it's going to rain or it seems like it's going to rain. You would say のように for that, right? So here it's saying it seemed like this thing that happened in an instant. And that's how she kind of thinks about it, or how she felt about it. It felt like 一瞬間の出来事のように思える。It felt like, or she thought of it as like an instant that happened. It felt like ever since like the moment that statue fell over, everything felt like an instant. It happened in an instant, like a flash of time. Yeah, okay, cool. Now this part's really straightforward. So this kind of breaks up the two sections, I think. So the part that was, so we have the setting right here, then we have like the actual, like what happened inside the setting. We got the setting of like what's happening and then what she dreamt. And we know this whole time it's a dream, so it's not like it's a surprise. We know that she's dreaming, but it's like this really interesting, kind of strange dream. And then she tells you like, this is I think the sentence that breaks up between the dream and the stuff that's after, which is like how she felt about what she just saw. It felt like it happened in this instant. Okay. 私はこの夢に意味をつけてみた. So she says, now she brings back herself. She says, to this dream, この means this. So you know how we said その earlier? その, which was referring to something that happened before, like a sentence before or a line before. この means this. So 私はこの夢に. So she's saying this dream. She's not saying that dream. She's saying this dream. So she's almost talking about it like in this moment. この夢に意味をつけてみた. 意味 means a meaning. Actually, I think that's pretty easy to remember, right? 意味 and meaning mean the same thing. 意味 means meaning, like to give something meaning. So つける means to stick to it, to like put something on it. So I'm gonna give it meaning. So she says, I'm gonna give this, like I tried to give this dream some meaning. Like she tried to understand what this dream was about, right? Like why was she dreaming this? Like what does this dream mean? So she says to us, the reader, she says, つけてみた means I tried to give it some meaning. So やってみる, if you guys have heard it, 試してみる, やってみる. Yeah, 試してみる, やってみる is actually a grammatical kind of form, but てみる means to try something. So やってみる means to try and do. やる means to do. So やってみる is try to do. 食べる means to eat, right? 食べてみる means like to try and eat it. Like when you try something for the first time, like let's say you've never tried, like I don't know, soup before. I don't know, everybody's tried soup, I'm sure, but like let's say you've never tried soup before, or no, maybe you live in like a really hot place, you've never tried to eat snow before. You go to a snowy place and someone says, hey, you want to try eating the snow? So 食べてみる means to try something, right? So or to try eating it. So てみる means usually like to try to do something, and And so here she's saying, つけてみる means to try to fix a meaning to it, to fix something to it. So she says, I'm going to try to fix meaning to it. This is really fun. At first, I didn't understand what was happening because I missed the beginning of the stream, but now I'm totally missed. I'm glad, Christopher. I'm so glad. Yeah, I know this is kind of hard. I kind of want to do this again, but with like something that's simpler and something maybe more like modern pop culture. But I actually had homework. This is homework, right? So I was like, I might as well try it for the first time with my homework assignment. And then one day we can try, like we can maybe in the next few weeks, we can try something that's shorter and maybe like more modern and fun and like easier. I have a few books for that actually. So I think that we'll do that next time. But I'm glad that if you're, you don't need to understand all of this, guys. Like you don't need to, one of the things that someone told me, and this is really important, I think, and I think this will help you if you're studying Japanese, you don't need to memorize everything the first time you see it. You don't need to memorize everything the first time you see it, right? Just because you learn a word, like let's say you read a word and you're like, oh, I gotta memorize it because I read it. No, you don't need to. Don't worry about that. Like learn it in that moment, maybe look it up, maybe try to guess the meaning. If it's a word that you know most of the sentences you're reading, but there's like one word that you don't know, try to guess the meaning. Maybe look it up to see if you're right, maybe see the pronunciation. And then keep moving on. You can maybe write it down if you really like the word. If you want to put it in flashcards, that's okay too. But I had this, so my best friend is a non-native but like a native fluent speaker of Spanish. My best friend, right? She's not native, but she's basically native. So I was asking her like, hey, when you read, like, do you look up everything or do you write down everything or do you make flashcards for everything? She's like, no. Like sometimes if she really likes a word, she'll write it down. But usually if in general a word is really common or important, you'll read it again and again and again. And you see in this little 2-page story we're reading, the same word is coming up so many times, right? Taoreru is coming up multiple times. The word dream is coming up multiple times. The word pick up is coming up multiple times. The word ceramic. I mean, ceramic is not an easy word in any language, right? I mean, I don't even know if I knew the word ceramic until I was like maybe middle school. I don't know. When did I learn the word ceramic as a kid in English? But now you guys know the word, toki, right? You'll probably see it and you'll probably recognize it. You probably will remember it pretty well. So when you're reading things, please don't it can be kind of overwhelming. Just take it slow, just take it like little bit by little bit, read through it. And then it's okay if you don't remember everything or understand everything. If you get even a little bit of it, you've learned something from what you read. And sure, it might not be as efficient as flashcards in the beginning, but there's a point at which I think flashcards don't really teach you context or like usage very well. Like flashcards can teach you the meaning of words and they're really important. So I love flashcards. I still do flashcards, but there's a point at which sometimes you'll know, let's say you see for example in English, you'll see the flashcard for the word coagulate. I know I'm bringing up a really big word. Coagulate, right? Coagulate. And you know this word, but do you know how to use it? Do you know when to use it? What do you use coagulate with? For example, the word tear. And let's do something simple. Coagulate was a terrible, crappy example. I'm sorry. I don't know why that word came into my brain. Tear. Let's use the word tear. Like, you know the word tear. You know what it means. It means like something's ripped or something like that. But like, what do you use it with? Do you say that like the door tears? Can you say the door tears? I don't think you can say the door tears. You would say the door broke, right? But you can say like the clothing tears. So you might know the meaning of a word, but you don't really know how to use it unless you see it in context. And that's one of the reasons why reading is so important. So even if it's really simple stuff like maybe more simple manga, right? Reading manga is really important because in English, we know how to use words because we've heard them and learned them in context. Fairy's out of blood. I don't want that coagulation. No, I don't know why the word coagulate came into my brain. I have not seen that word in forever. But I think tear is a really good example, is that also the word tear versus the word tear. How do you know that when you're reading it, you're supposed to read the word tear and not the word tear, right? Also, what about the word tear for like scales? Like, you know, when you tear a scale for like the scale to go back to 0, stuff like that. So those are things to think about, is that flashcards are so important, especially in the beginning, to give you the kind of the basics and the foundation. But it's even better as you get better and better. Once you're past N3, or at least around N3, I mean, even when you're N5, N4, you should read stuff. But when you're N3, N2 is when you should 1000% be reading more and more, right? Yeah, I think flashcards are important, but I just wanted to kind of emphasize that a lot of times I see people, they're like, oh, I have to go through the flashcards, I have to go through like 12K flashcards or something. And yeah, you can do that. That's not bad, but you should always do it as like a secondary thing to like actually using the language in different contexts, like speaking, reading, listening, writing. Yeah, okay, anyway, that's my spiel. Let's go back. マイスピオ、なんか皆さんに何言語勉強してもいつも暗記カードとかしながらその暗記しようって思ってすごいストレスになっちゃうと思いますので、なんかさすがに暗記は大事なんですね。大事なんですが、言葉を勉強してその暗記カードで勉強して意味が一応理解できるわけで、なんかできることだけで使えるわけじゃないじゃん。なんか使えるって、限らないんですね。なんか意味が分かっても言葉が分かっても使い方が全く分かんないって全然普通と思いますので、さすがに使い方どうやって習べばいいって思っても誰かと話したりすることで習うこともできますが、本とか読んだりしてその本の中にその言葉の文章の中の使い方、文脈とかでもっと深く理解できると思いますので、暗記は大事なんですが、いろんなネイティブなもの読んだり人と話したりすることでもっと言葉の正しい使い方とか理解できるんじゃないかなと思いますので、今は皆さんになんか今やってるこの短編小説というか2ページの小説は難しい字が出てるとか難しい言葉が出てるからなんか全部暗記しないといけないと思うより、軽く理解して同じ言葉を何回も見たところでもう分かっちゃうんで、全然なんか最初は倒れるっていう意味が分かんなくて文章で読んで、次2回目出た時別の文章で読んで、3回目4回目5回目出た時その文章で読んで意味が分かっちゃいますね。さすがに暗記カードやるほど早くはないがもっと深く分かると思いますので、暗記カードと一緒に読んだりしたら言葉の重さとか意味とか使い方は全部はっきり分かりますので、はい、暗記しないといけないって心配しながら勉強しなくていいと思いますね、ある程度。グッピーさんありがとうございます。配信行けなくてすいません。いや全然ありがとうございます。いや全然よかった、どうぞ。いや嬉しいです、ありがとうございます。スーパー、いや感謝してますよ。ロチさんと視聴者の皆さんが仕事や学校、勉強や配信頑張ってください。応援しています。ありがとうございますよ、グッピーさん。いや来てくださいまして本当にありがとうございます。来るだけで本当に嬉しいなんで、スーパーチャットまでいただいて本当にありがとうございます。勉強にちゃんと使います。このチャンネルに勉強にちゃんと使いますので本当にありがとうございます。5分でも1分でも来てもらえると本当に私になんかすごい嬉しいことなんで、ありがとうございます。プレッシャーを感じないで来てもらえると嬉しいです。はい、ありがとうございますよ、スーパーチャット嬉しい。ありがとうございます。Okay, sorry, let me read what, Guppy-san was saying, like, I'm sorry I can't make it to stream, but I know this is kind of small, but here's the super chat, which is not at all small, by the way, thank you so much. Any amount of super chat, I'm always thankful. And they're wishing everybody, good luck with school and studying and to do our best, and that they're cheering us on, so thank you so much, Guppy-san. ちょっと英語に翻訳してみました。はい。皆さんも、はい、ありがとうございます。応援してくださいまして。This reminds me of the time I sneak into my sensei's class of Japanese magazines because I wanted to be able to read manga in Japanese. I feel ya. This reminds me of a meme that was saying English was hard because of the words though, through, tough, thorough, throughout, etc. Oh gosh, even reading that. Though, through, tough, thorough, throughout. Yeah, that's right. I feel like I'm starting to understand more about Japanese words while I'm chilling and listening. Yeah, you'll learn a lot. And eventually, like, it'll get easier. I remember I read about this one lady. She was around N2, N1 level already, so, for what it is, she was pretty good to begin with, but she read 200 books in Japanese. And she said the first book took forever. It took forever. She had to keep looking, like, she could look things up. Sometimes she wouldn't even bother looking it up. She just kept reading and moved on. And eventually the next book felt a little easier and easier. And eventually by the time she was around book number 20 or 50 or something, suddenly, like, she'd seen the words again and again and again, and she already knew them. She never really learned them or memorized them, but she'd seen them so much she knew them by then. And then by the time she got to book 200, she was like, there's no book she couldn't really read. Like sometimes like more like complicated stuff, like if she's reading about like medical stuff, it was really hard because there's all these words she's never really seen before. But it's exposure. That's not always as efficient, but it's really good in the long run. And as you get better at it, it becomes faster. So it's not efficient in the beginning, but it gets faster. Okay, anyway, that's my story. 武器は使えなきゃ意味ないって言われました。これは数学で聞いた言葉だけど、確かにね、なんかそう使わないといけないんですね。でもやっぱ怖いって思わないんですかね。なんかですね、昔から日本でもアメリカでも言語を勉強しても長く、いや小学校からか中学校から英語を勉強したって思っても、いきなり誰かと話すの怖いって感じないんですかね。間違ったらどうしよう、変なこと言っちゃったらどうしようっていろんな気持ちで喋ることになりますね。でもさすがにどこか間違わないと正しい使い方は理解できないんですね。なんか間違うとか変に言われちゃうとか変に思われちゃうっていう考えで成長できないなーって思っちゃうんで、私はね、配信中こんな、なんだろう、絶対間違ってる日本語たくさん使ってますね、私。絶対。はい。たくさん使ってますので、間違ってるところでみんななんか直してくれて教えてくれてるってすごく感謝してます。で、緊張って思っても逆にその感謝の気持ちの方が多いと思いますね。なんかこうやって日本語を使える機会がある、こうやって他の人と会話できて、なんかいろんな話できる機会があるっていうことの方が大事ってなんかどんどん分かってきましたね、大人になって。でも子供の頃かなんか中学校や高校の頃、日本語を誰かと喋るっていうところで、いや私の日本語下手だなっていう気持ちで喋るのが怖いって感じてたね、ちょっとだけ。そうですね。でもなんかまあ喋るのは使えるのは全然できるんだけど、丁寧に使えないのは怖いってちょっとあったんですね。Yeah, thanks, Ro. I feel like I'm learning more. I'm so glad, Magic. I'm so glad. First of all, thank you for being a member for 13 months. I always appreciate your support. And I'm so glad you're learning. Even if you learn like just a couple words, or even if you learn like how to read a little bit from this, I'm glad. But I promise we'll do something a little simpler, a little more basic next time. If you guys have certain things you want to go through together on stream, I'm down to take those suggestions and kind of pick things that are easier and go through them on stream for everybody. 温かいお言葉ありがとうございます。いえいえ、こちらこそありがとうございます。本当にありがとうございます、グッピーさん。Okay, let's finish. あと少しこれ終わらせたらね、翻訳頑張りましょう。英語でいろいろ頑張りましょう。英語の練習になるところになりますので、今はこっちちょっと終わらせましょう。終わらせましょうって言う？終わらせよう。いや、終わらせましょうって合ってない。いや、わかんない。もうわかんなくなった。わあ、OK。続きましょう。じゃあ、私はこの夢に意味をつけてみた。そう、これももう読んだ。Okay, here we have some hard words. By the way, this right here is a quotation mark. If you don't know, you probably already know this if you've been studying Japanese for any amount of time, but this is a quotation mark. これ何って思われてる英語母語の人がいるかもしれないんで、これは英語で quotation mark って言うんですね。誰か喋ってるっていう意味なんですね。英語でも。で、英語でこうやって書きますね。てか、左右になるんだけど、左はこうやってなんか文章がブラブラブラブラって真ん中に出るね。で、これは誰か喋ってるって意味なんですね。まあみんなもう知ってるでしょ。誰に何説明しようって知ってるんだろう、私。はい、続きましょう。Okay, so let's read this next part. So, 何時らも妻を扱うこと弱き器のごとくせよ。待って。何時らも妻なんですかこれちゃんと読んでる？意味がわかるんだけど、誰かの意味がわかるんだけど、なんで読み方は緊張する？やっぱ G 勉強しないとな。Aaron, hello! As long as I can get my daily dose of bro, I'm happy. Aww. Thank you. Shaka, おはよう。これちゃんと読んだっけ私。I think it's 妻。Let me double check really quick. I don't know why. I know how to read this. 妻？そう、妻だった。合ってたわ。Yeah, so by the way, 妻 means wife or spouse, but basically like your female spouse. 何時らも妻を扱うこと弱き器のごとくせよ。So, this is old Japanese. Actually, I think, like, I remember my teacher mentioning this, that it's kind of like older Japanese. Like, this is not a very, like, modern way of saying something. But this author is kind of quoting something. They're quoting something right now. So this first word is kind of hard. Kanjira means you, like Y-O-U-U, like when you're pointing at somebody and saying you. Nanjira means that. Nanjira means like you, but it's not really something people use, I think, nowadays. I'm not sure. 何時だっていう言葉は今使う言葉なんですかね。今でも使われている言葉なんでしょうかね。よくわかんない。もっと昔の言葉じゃないかな。Yeah. 何時だも and saying you too, mo means too, like T-O-O-2. It means not you too. Like when you say, like, if someone says, hey, I'm gonna eat cake, and I'm gonna be like, I want cake too. So if that person says, 私ケーキ食べるよって言ったら、私もケーキ欲しい. Like, I also want cake. I too want cake. 私もケーキ欲しい. 私もチョコレート欲しい. チョコレートってやつか。私もなんか飲みたいなって思った時のも. So usually mo means I too. So if someone says, I too want to do something, this is mo. This is basic grammar. I think this is really useful for anybody, right? This is basic N5 grammar. So just remember this means too. So you too, your wife, someone's wife, right? You too, and they're referring to that person's wife. Like you too with your wife. Atsukau means the way you treat somebody. Like the way I treat my friend, or the way I treat my partner, the way I treat like my books, for example. Treat is how you handle or how you take care or how you treat somebody. So atsukau means to treat or take care of someone. Atsukau koto. Atsukau means to treat, and then koto is the act of doing that, right? The act of treating someone, or the doing of treating someone. Yoaki utsuwa no gotoku seyo. And this is the part that's a little harder, but gotoku means just like, as, the same as something, right? So this once you understand, I think it's a little bit easier. But you too, towards your wife, should treat like this yoaki utsuwa, which we learned in the beginning. But yowai means weak, utsuwa means vessel. So like a weak vessel, or like a fragile vessel, or a fragile container, a fragile item. No gotoku seyo means as the same. So you should treat, and this is where I said, in the beginning, that this might be conventions that we really don't agree with maybe nowadays, or not even maybe, for sure. I think I myself will be like, what are you talking about? I'm not weak. but we're looking at this older story. So and when I say older story, the interesting thing is I don't think this was written a long time ago, but it's referring to concepts that are very old. So I think this was written in the late 1900s. I don't remember exactly when it was written. I should check. I remember my teacher, wait, hold on, let me see if I can find the year it was written. But I was going to say, this is the part that I think a lot of people will be like, huh? What? What now? What? So, excuse me? So don't, setting aside, what we understand about people today, I think it's still really interesting to kind of understand. Where is... なんだっけ? 変える時勢、違う。これじゃないね。どこ? 書いてないな。これいつ書かれたのだろう。I don't know when this was written. I'm looking through my notebook, but I don't remember if I have when this was written. Yeah, I can't find it, but I don't think this is super, super old. So it's an older concept, but I think it's maybe the 1900s, maybe. I'm not sure exactly. But anyway, so for what it's worth, it's saying that this is quoting something. The author, or this main character, she's quoting something that she's trying to give meaning to this dream she just had. She just had this interesting dream. She's trying to give it some meaning, and she is saying that she's quoting this line that says, 何時だも妻を扱うこと弱気器のごとくせよ. So it's saying you too treat your spouse, your wife, as this fragile vessel. Yeah, that's what it's saying. So this is a quote. And then she explains where this quote is from, right? Oh, I lost my place in my paper. Hold on one second. Are we following along so far? Any questions? I know this right here is older writing, and it's on purpose. So we'll learn why it's older writing in a second. But does that make sense so far? How does the author decide what kanji will have furigana and what ones won't? So actually, that's interesting. So if there's this list, right, in Japan, it's called Joyo Kanji. And it's the standardized list of kanji that everybody should know. It's about 2,300 characters. It's a little more than 2,300. It's about 2,300. I know that sounds like a really big number, but students learn kanji growing up since they're in elementary school. So by the time you're in middle school, high school, you kind of know all of these kanji over time, right? Think of it as this list of word roots that every student who speaks English should probably know, right? So there's like this list of 2,300. Usually, if it's within that list, it won't have furigana, right? If it's within that list, if it's these words that everybody kind of should know or these characters that everybody should know, it might not really have any furigana. But if it's like a very strange usage, let's say it's a really common word, but they're using it in a really interesting or different way, they sometimes will have furigana. Sometimes if it's a word that, for example, I can give you an example right here, right? I can give you an example that we actually just had. Where is it? Right here. So why is it that garasu is written right here in furigana, right? It's written here. It's not that people don't necessarily know this, but it's really common for people to know glass as garasu nowadays. So it could be, and this is me just guessing, but it could be that this was written because a lot of people might not quickly recognize this. I think they would likely understand it because both of these characters, and I can guarantee both of these characters are in the Joyo list. They're standard characters that people should know, but people most often use kind of garasu, like the katakana version of the characters, so they might not immediately look at this and fully comprehend what the author is saying. So that might be why they have it. Another one is here, kanzeon. Kanze and on, like these characters are all common characters. They're actually like characters you probably learned in elementary school. These characters, like not even middle school, like elementary level characters. But this word is kind of uncommon. It might not be common, and it might not be something you know unless you're like maybe your family is Buddhist, or maybe you're more aware of kind of that cultural aspect. You might not really know this word, and that's why it might have furigana, right? So furigana is there sometimes as an aid, but sometimes, which is, you know, when like maybe it's not in the common character list, so it's used. But sometimes, like for example here, right here, everybody knows this character. So if this character had been here instead, it's a very common character, this probably wouldn't have been here. But I told you earlier when we were reading, like a lot of my Japanese viewers did not like really know this character. They'd never really seen it. And that's why this author probably put this here, because a lot of people don't know this character. This is probably not really in the Joyo kanji. I'm not sure. I think it's not in the Joyo kanji list. So even for native speakers, like they'll probably get the meaning. They'll probably understand what's going on, but it's just to let them know. And then the last, I think one of the other big reasons why authors use it is because it's kind of cool that you can write a different meaning with one set of characters and write something else for the pronunciation because you want to mean something different. So for example, I don't know if you guys remember the Ado song, Gira Gira. Do you guys remember the Ado song, Gira Gira? It goes like, Gira Gira. I don't know why am I singing it. Anyway, so in that song, there's this line that she says weapon. And on top of that word, it says makeup in Japanese, right? So it says, the character says weapon. It says buki. It literally says weapon. The characters are weapon. But the pronunciation part says makeup. And that's because, like, it's probably because she wants to say that for her makeup is her weapon, right? In English, we can say the same thing, but we kind of use a sentence for it, right? We don't really have this concept of furigana. But imagine if, like, an author could say weapon and above it says makeup. You know that the makeup is the weapon, right? So it can also have, like, this artistic use. And then the very last thing I really quickly want to say is sometimes, though, it's adjusted based on the reading level of the audience that it's geared towards. So if you're reading a book that is made for elementary schoolers, the non-standard elementary school kanji, like the stuff that elementary schoolers, even if they're in the Joyo kanji, wouldn't have learned yet, because elementary schoolers don't know those words yet, they'll have furigana on them. Yeah, so that's the last one. So it's either a tool to help readers or it's used artistically. Okay, there we go. So yeah, it's a really good question. It's a really, really good question. It's a lot of choices involved in it too. So the fact that these have furigana is probably because they're not very common, right? Or they're not used as frequently. So in this particular case, right? In this particular case right here. So なんか視聴者さんがなんで何の漢字にフリガナつけばいいかつけなくていいかってその作家さんはどうやって決めるんだって聞かれてて、でさすがにそれ英語でフリガナっていうものがないんでちょっと説明してましたね。はい。Okay. So let's finish this up. I keep taking for I'm just stalling over here. Okay. Okay, let's finish reading. We're almost done. Okay. Sorry. この聖書の言葉がその頃よく私の頭に浮かぶのであった。そう、この聖書の言葉がその頃よく私の頭に浮かぶのであった。So, この is this, right? Like we just learned this, right? Same exact thing. This was referring to this dream, right? Here we're referring to this quote right here, right? So この聖書. So these are actually really common characters. So I think I'll just explain them. 聖 is used for like anything that is to do with religion or like priest, religion, stuff like that. And then 書 is book, right? Book or right, but in this case it is book, right? So they're talking about some kind of religious text. Sometimes I think this is used for the Bible, but it doesn't have to be the Bible. I think this is used generally for religious text. I wonder if in this case it means Bible. I'm not sure. Hold on. Let me look. Is it Bible? No, I think this is in general. It's scriptures. It's scriptures in general, but it could be that she's referring to the Bible. It's not really specific, but I'm guessing this might be Bible. It might just be general scriptures. It's not clear, but think of it in general. At the very least, it's a religious text. It's a religious book. Simple. Religious book. Easy to remember. So there's this religious book. No kotoba. Kotoba. So この聖書の言葉. So this religious book's words is what she's referring to when she's looking at this, right? がその頃よく私の頭に浮かぶのであった. In that time, like during that period, その頃, and this is the part where I'm a little confused, but I don't know when she's referring to. She's saying that time. But what time? Is she talking about the dream or like something else? I'm not really sure actually. But その頃よく私の頭, my brain, 頭 or my head. So here, you know, it means head, but it kind of means like in your thoughts or in your mind. But 私の頭に浮かぶのであった. And these words would often come up in her mind. Ukabu means to kind of come up, like to kind of remember something or to kind of come up in your brain. And so even though this word means head, in Japanese it's used a lot for your mind or your thoughts or your brain. So 私の頭に浮かぶのであった. It came up in my head. Think of it that way. It came up in my mind. Like these words at that time, and I still don't know what time she's referring to, but at that time, the words of the scripture came up in my mind. 浮かぶのであった. And this is past tense again. 浮かぶのであった. And then we'll continue reading. 弱き器という言葉から私はいつ. And here, the reason, I'm going to pause here really quick. This can also be read as nanji, means at what time. But here they're making it very clear that you're reading it as itsu. It also means what time. But I don't know why they wrote it like this. I guess you usually write it as itsu in not characters. But 私はいつもなんだっけ、瀬戸物だね。瀬戸物の器を連想していた。でしょ？瀬戸物かな。瀬戸物だね。瀬戸物だね。瀬戸物、and this is really interesting too. This is a different kind of item. 瀬戸物 is porcelain. So until now we were talking about ceramics. And now this author, this character, this protagonist is bringing up porcelain. I know it's a little confusing. Are we okay so far? Are people kind of following so far? Hi Smecht, how are you? I'm glad it makes sense. Christopher, I'm so glad. Yeah. 使わないけどかっこいいから知ってます。それでもいいんじゃないかなと思いますよ。自分の楽しみのためにでも言語を学ぶのすごくいいことじゃないかなと思います。絶対誰かと使わないといけないわけじゃないんですね。まあさすがに練習には誰かと使うのがいいんですが、本読むだけの楽しみ、自分でやることで楽しんで外国語を使うの全然いいんじゃないかなと思うんで。Okay, so we're good so far. I'm like jumping back and forth. Okay, so this part, right? You know, she's referring to this religious text that she read, and then she's saying, 弱き器という言葉から私はいつも瀬戸物の器を連想していた。瀬戸物の器。So 瀬戸物の器 is, you know, earlier we said陶器の器. Where is it? Right here. 陶器の関西音. 陶器の means a porcelain, and 関西音 was that statue. So this porcelain statue, a statue that is made of not porcelain. Let me take this back. What am I saying? Ceramic statue. So earlier we learned this word is ceramic. 陶器の器, a statue that is made of ceramic, right? And here we're learning the word 瀬戸物の器. 瀬戸物 is porcelain. 器 is like what we were, and see, this word has come up like 4 or 5 times now, right? Because the story is about this kind of like container, this vessel. So now we're talking about porcelain. And she's saying that this word earlier that she read, 弱き器, she'd always associated this word right here, word right here, 弱き器という言葉. This word called 弱き器, this weak vessel, 私はいつも I had always いつも means always like I always thought 私はいつも瀬戸物の器を連想していた瀬戸物の器 means like this porcelain vessel and she'd always connected it with that 連想 means to like associate something like you know when you associate your like let's say if you think of chocolate you think of Roro you associate chocolate with Roro you associate Roro with chocolate so 連想 means to associate so this author is saying, you know, I read these words in this religious scripture, and you know, these words came up when I was thinking of this situation, and I'd always associated the word of this like weak vessel with like something like porcelain. That you know, I'd always associated with something that's made of porcelain. That's what she's saying. そしてさらに彼女を連想した。そしてさらに彼女を連想した。So I think this part kind of explains what I had a question about earlier. So その頃, and I think she's referring to her dream, she's saying after she kind of had associated these words from the scripture with porcelain kind of vessels, now she suddenly was associating it as well with that girl that she saw earlier. そしてさらに彼女を連想した。So now she connected this porcelain with, or this porcelain like vessel and this idea of like treasuring a porcelain vessel because it's breakable. So treasuring your wife because they're breakable to this girl that she saw earlier in her dream. That's what it's saying right here. 彼女を連想した。Okay. 若い娘は誠に壊れやすい。やばい娘でしょやばい娘は誠に壊れやすい。So, 待って、what did I just say? 若い娘。ちょっと待って、今何言った私。ちょっと待って、頭黒くなった。うわー、待って。若い娘は誠に壊れやすい。Which means like a young, 若い means young. So we're all 若い people, right? We're young people. 若い娘 means young daughter or young girl, young daughter は誠に壊れやすい means like is completely easy to break. 壊れやすい means easy to do. Like, for example, if let's say you're eating porridge, like you know when you're sick you eat porridge, you say like 食べやすい, right? Easy to eat. So this is easy to break. So it's like easy to. So right here when you do 何々やすい, it means like easy to whatever came before it. So easy to break, right? We learned the word break earlier. This is that fancy character we learned. Easy to break. So she's saying that, you know, she'd always kind of like this is what she'd understood was that young daughters are easy to break as well. 恋をするということそれ自身が一つの見方では若い女が壊れることである。So again, I told you guys it's going to be something that I think a lot of us will not really relate to or really agree with. But, you know, we're reading this and we're understanding it from what the scripture had initially said was that, you know, women are easily breakable. This young girl is easily breakable. And when they koi, and this is probably a word you guys have heard a lot too because it's used a lot in dramas and novels and manga. And it means love, right? So like when someone loves someone or something, right? So love. So 恋をするということそれ自身が like the concept of love itself 恋をする means to love something という that concept ということ this idea of loving something, right? ということ this idea of loving something that itself それ自身 means itself that itself それ is that it's similar to the word そのそれ is a different way of kind of saying その I don't know how to describe exactly the difference but そのそれ it's like item versus like kind of that concept 自身が so that very fact of like loving something 一つの見方では in one way 見方 means like in one perspective or in one way 若い女が壊れることである so it's saying that in one way in one particular kind of perspective a woman who has fallen in love that itself makes her breakable 壊れることである or makes her something that becomes broken or is breakable and I can guess without saying this if any of you are a little older you know exactly what this is talking about because it's this concept and this is something that I don't really bring up on stream Because I was kind of thinking about like if this is kind of not age appropriate for some of my viewers, so please forgive me, but it is literature. It is literature, and I think that has a lot of value in itself. But I think this is kind of talking about virginity. It's kind of how I understood it. Yeah, and how we kind of talked about it in class. But it's this idea of loving itself is a sort of way of breaking. そんな風に私は考えていた. And this is what the author is saying right now. She's saying, I kind of understood it like this. This is how I understood it, that, you know, it's breakable, and that in a way, in one particular way, the concept of loving itself, or to love itself, is something that breaks a young woman, right? そんな風に, in that, by the way, this is read as like, you know, in other words, this is kaze, it means wind. But when you read it in this way, そんな風に means in that manner, like in the manner. So it doesn't mean wind in this case, but in that manner, I used to think, or I had been thinking. 私は考えていた. I had been thinking in this way. So I know a lot of people are like, what? I'm not breakable? Yeah, that's how I feel. Don't worry. I'm not I'm not like, yeah, this is how people are. No. This is literature. This is just how people were thought of in the past, how women were thought of in the past, right? So anyway, let's continue reading. We're almost last sentence. 最後の文章だ。そして、今、私の夢の中で、彼女は彼女自身の壊れたかけらを忙しげに拾い集めているのではなかろうか。So she's saying, okay, this is a kind of long sentence, so I'll read it one more time. そして今、私の夢の中で彼女は彼女自身の壊れたかけらを忙しげに拾い集めているのではなかろうか。So, this is a long sentence, read it little bit by bit. そして means and. Subsequently, after that, そして with that said, 今 means now. Now, 私の夢の中 my dream inside my dream, in my dream, 彼女 is that girl she saw earlier, right? And actually this is something really interesting, but 彼女 has a lot of different meanings. It can mean girlfriend, it can mean girl, it can be how you refer to someone you're talking to, like your friend who's a girl. You can say 彼女は, you can say that. It has a lot of meanings. It's kind of ambiguous word. But she's saying 彼女, that, and here in this case we're referring to the girl in the dream. 彼女は彼女自身. That girl, and 自身 is that word we were reading earlier right here, right? It came up. それ自身, that itself. Here is that girl herself, right? So 彼女は彼女自身の壊れたかけらを. So those broken pieces are the pieces of herself. 彼女は彼女自身の possessive right here, possessive, 壊れたかけら. So the pieces of herself. 忙しげに拾い集めている. And we learned this is the exact same sentence we had earlier, right? 忙しげに拾い集める. 忙しげに拾い集めている. Same exact thing. And see, the same word is coming up twice. And we explained it earlier, like hurriedly. 忙しげに is like hurriedly. 拾い集めている. Picking up, gathering, right? Picking up and gathering, right? のではなかろうか. And this is like a more traditional or like a very specific writing way of kind of saying, is it not? And if you know like more basic Japanese, ではないでしょうか. で、ちょっと似てる意味で、ではなかろうかじゃないかな. So it's like saying, is it not that? And this, so this, you know, main character is kind of postulating, kind of saying, now that I think about it, in that dream, like そして now in that dream, in my dream, wasn't it just that the girl was picking up fragments of herself in such a hurried manner, picking up and gathering fragments of herself, 彼女自身. And that's how this story ends. Makes sense? Are we good? Was that okay? I know that was a lot. Yeah, was that okay? Well, we read through the whole story. この本は実に興味深い。嬉しい。There are so many. I actually have a whole collection of short stories that are more modern. They're like modern short stories. They're like 3-4 pages. I can share them on stream next time if you guys want to do like maybe one. I try, you know, if we do use it, I want to go through it because to some degree just posting things on the internet is like copyright violation. But if we like talk about it like this, it is completely okay to do. At least from my understanding, it might be different. I hopefully won't have to take the stream down, but that was the story. So it has a lot of elements and it's a really short story, and it brings up a lot of things that I think, concepts that are really important, but also concepts that I think a lot of us would be like, I don't know about that. In today's day and age, I don't know about that. I don't agree with that maybe. But I think it's still a really interesting thing to kind of think about as like the story. And so one of the things that my classmates and I were guessing was, isn't the girl in that girl that might have been the statue itself, the Kanzeon statue itself? Even though the Kanzeon statue isn't supposed to be very gendered, we're told that this Kanzeon statue looks kind of like a 12-year-old girl in this situation. So maybe it's a gendered, like it's almost being given this kind of gender of this girl. And then beyond that, could it be that the person, like one of the questions we were asked is, then why is this author dreaming this? Why did she dream this? なんで主人公のお姉さんというか主人公の方がこの夢を見たんだろう。結局その彼女自身のかけらで、その夢の中の彼女は誰だろうって思いながら、そのカンゼオン自体かな、それともその主人公自身かな、主人公が夢の中に自分のことの夢を見てて、自分がカンゼオンの中から壊れたところで出して、自分のかけらを忙しげに拾い集めてるんじゃないかなってみんなちょっと考えてましたね。結構興味深い話だと思いますね。So yes, this is the story. I think like when you think about it on the surface, it's very like clear what's happening. So to recap really quickly, I'm just going to recap through the entire story really quick, sentence by sentence, so that we kind of know where we are, and then we'll translate some of it, at least half of it today. So to recap where we are, so there's this crossroad, and at this crossroad there's this antique shop, and in front of this antique shop, between the road and this store, or sorry, in front of this antique shop, between the shop and the store, is this statue, a kanzeon, which is like this protective, it's a form of Buddha is what I understand, but like it's like this protective deity, and it stands in front of the store, and it's made of ceramic. It's a ceramic version, and that's kind of interesting, by the way, because like the ones I've seen in my life have always been made of bronze or some kind of metal, but this one's made of ceramic. That's kind of interesting. Yeah, so it's the ceramic protective deity, and it looks kind of like a 12-year-old, like it has the height and the kind of stature of a 12-year-old girl. And then in front of this road, this train kind of goes through, and every time the train kind of passes through, or when the train passes through, and we can't say every time because I think this is the one instance she's seeing it, but the train passes through, the glass door of this antique shop, along with the statue itself, kind of shake. They like shiver, like they're shaking from the vibration of the train going by, and it's this really tiny shaking. And when she sees that shaking, when the protagonist sees that shaking, she like starts to take a step forward because she's worried it's gonna fall into the street. Like she's worried it's gonna topple over. The statue, this kanzeon, this statue is gonna fall over. So she kind of like takes like steps forward, like to because she's kind of nervous. She's nervous it's gonna fall over. And this is this dream that she's seeing. そうして見た夢. This is this dream that she's seeing. So then she goes on to kind of explain what happens in the dream. So then she's standing in front of the statue, and suddenly the statue faces towards her. It faces towards her and it kind of leans forward, almost like it's gonna fall, but it's not really falling. It just leans forward towards her. And then suddenly the arms like kind of stretch out. They endlessly kind of move forward and wrap around her neck. These arms, just the arms kind of move forward and wrap around her neck. And she's like, this inanimate, this unalive object's arms suddenly move like they're alive. And it feels so creepy. And also the ceramic is so cold because like the skin of this ceramic statue, it's like what is it? It's like the arms are wrapping around her neck and it's cold. And she got so startled, like she got like kind of startled. She like jumped, and she jumped back, and that's kind of where we left off right here. And the next line starts by saying, without a sound, the statue had broken into a bunch of tiny pieces in the street. So we're guessing that it's because she jumped back, or she jumped because of it, that it like she jumped either backward or she jumped up because she got like startled, and the statue fell over, it seems. So we kind of connected, related to each other, but it doesn't say like she broke it, but it seems like she broke it. It seems like she broke it, especially with the stuff that came after. So without a sound, it was broken in the street. And then she saw, as it's broken in the street, there's this girl who suddenly appeared, and she's picking it all up. 拾っている. 彼女が拾っている. There's this girl who's picking it up. And then that girl, how she's sitting, she's in the street, she's crouched down really small, and all these tiny glittering pieces of this ceramic that are broken on the floor, she's like hurriedly, busily picking it up. She's picking it up and gathering it up. So like almost like kind of, think of it, I almost thought of it as kind of almost a little bit desperately. Yeah, like hurriedly, busily like picking up all these tiny pieces off the floor. So 彼女の姿は現れたのに驚いて. So this part was when she was saying that she was so surprised by this girl even appearing, and then she kind of went to like explain herself and apologize. Like she went to open her mouth and apologize to this girl, and it doesn't tell us why she wants to apologize, but we're assuming it's because she broke it, right? She goes to apologize to this girl, and she suddenly wakes up. And that's where the dream kind of ends, right here. The next line says, 完全音が倒れてから一瞬間の出来事のように思える. So that whole scene that she saw of the, right, starting from when the statue toppled over felt like an instant in time. Okay. And then after that she says, she tries to give meaning to this dream that she's dreaming. She dreamt this dream and she tries to give it some meaning. Like, you know when you dream dreams like I'm flying or I'm stuck in mud? I try to think, why did I dream that I'm flying, or why did I dream that I'm stuck in mud? So she tries to give some meaning to her dream. And she remembers this old like line from like scriptures or the Bible that, it says, it's not clear if it's the Bible, but it's some kind of scripture. She remembers this old line. Usually I think this refers to Bible, so let's assume it's the old line from the Bible. And it says that you should treat your wife like a breakable vessel, right? And this is where I said you might not agree with this, but let's keep going with this understanding that this is a story that's kind of referring to a different time. And she says that, she remembered at that time, she remembered these words that came into her mind. And she'd always associated this word of like a delicate or fragile vessel with like porcelain items, like porcelain, like containers or glasses or porcelainware. She'd always associated this idea of a breakable vessel with a porcelain vessel. And suddenly now, she also really started to associate, she thinks that it reminds her of the girl she saw in her dream that was picking up all those pieces. And then after that it says that young women are easy to break, and that loving itself, or the act of a girl loving somebody itself, makes her in a way broken. And that is how she had thought about this concept of like yoaki utsuwa, this word. She'd always thought of it as this concept, and this concept kind of spreads out to mean more than simply like porcelain items, but that it meant like kind of like this reference she had read before, that it means like someone who can break easily in some ways because of love, virginity, a lot of different ideas. And then she says, then she thinks about that dream and she says, that dream, it's probably that girl herself. Isn't it that girl herself picking up pieces of herself so hurriedly in her dream? So that's kind of how the story ends. So there's a lot happening. That's a lot happening. No worries, Erin. Thanks for dropping by, Fernie. I'm glad you like this. Christopher, you're such a good teacher. I don't know about anyone else, but for me, you make things so easy, and I'm so glad. I'm so glad. I used to tutor. I do love teaching. I just sometimes feel really nervous about teaching Japanese because I don't think of myself as fluent. I was asked once, like, Roro, do you consider yourself fluent? And I'm like, I don't know. I don't think so. Because I don't even consider... fluent is such a difficult word to describe. Like, I can say anything I really want to say in Japanese. I can describe it in Japanese if I want. But it's kind of... like, it's not always accurate. It's not always clear. And so I feel nervous to, like, teach Japanese. But I think to some degree I feel confident about what I understand and I can share that. But I will say that I don't know if I can always teach on the spot. Sometimes I like to look things up. I want to be sure before I teach something. But I feel that way in English too. Native English speaker, and still I'm like, do I really know English? I don't know. English is hard. English is hard. So, but I'm glad that I'm able to explain things in a way that's a little bit maybe easier to understand. I know there's a lot of specific words in this. If you guys have questions about specific words, I'm happy to like describe them or explain them. But I kind of thought that this might go a little bit too slow if I go word by word explaining everything. So I thought maybe we can explain like the story and the general ideas and kind of the bigger parts of the story. So some of the bigger things that we kind of learned today, I think, were this idea, like we learned the word dream. If you haven't learned the word dream before, right? This is the word yume, right? It's the word dream. It comes up multiple times. We learned toki, which is the word for ceramic. Zo, which is the statue. Mise, store. And then this concept of isogashige which means like hurriedly, hiroi atsumeru, which means to collect, right? Kanojo, which means can mean girl, can mean girlfriend. It can mean like a lot of different words to describe a woman, but we learned a lot of different words. And then most importantly, we learned yoaki utsuwa, which means fragile vessel, which utsuwa right here, right? Utsuwa, which means like a container or vessel. So there's a lot of like interesting words that do show up a lot. You'll see the word utsuwa pretty often. You'll see the word hada, like your skin. You'll see mise a lot. You'll see road a lot. You'll see a lot of these words pretty often. So it's kind of interesting to see. Yeah, so I think there are a lot of N2, N3, and 4 words in here, but I think there's also a few like N2, N1, even words that maybe native speakers don't see very often in here. Just a couple. Yeah. Okay. So now I have to translate this. So we'll do just a little bit of it today, and I think I might do the rest off stream. But let's at least do this section right here, because I think that'll be kind of fun. So, なんかこの部分だけ翻訳、今日はこの部分だけ翻訳のを頑張って、残りは多分私自分でやるって自分でやると思うんで、でも今日はもっとなんだっけ翻訳っていうよりなんだっけ今日はもっと英語の方を集中したいと思ってたんだけど、なんか逆に日本語を集中するの方が楽しくなったね。いつも通り私日本語の方が好きかも。普通に日本語の方が好きかな。それはみんな知ってるかな。英語より。Anyway, so let's go ahead and translate just this part. So, wait, actually, before we even translate, how would we translate this title? Yoaki utsuwa. Yoaki utsuwa. How would you guys translate this title? I would just call it weak vessel. Fragile vessel, maybe, is how I want to start. Maybe we'll call it fragile vessel. What do we think? Fragile vessel? Yes, I can imagine we're working in the Cardinal High School literature class. You would be such a cool teacher. Aw, thank you. That means a lot. I don't think I'm like cut out for like teaching. 同じ思っている? よかった。同じ? よかったよかった。なんかさ、saying weak vessel sounds kind of sad. Calling this weak vessel sounds kind of sad. I think like fragile vessel, I think it has to sound kind of like, especially because it's showing up in like a religious text. I think it has to sound a little more fancy. Maybe I'm not familiar with religious texts, but maybe I think it has to sound a little bit more like properly written rather than something sad like weak vessel. Okay, 弱気っていう言葉はいろんな英訳がありますが、weak っていうより fragile 壊れやすいっていう意味を伝わる言葉を使った方がいいかなと思いますので、みんな同じって言ってる。嬉しい。よかった。Okay, let me move myself aside a little because I'm in the way. I'm right here. I'm right here. Okay. 弱気器。Okay. Fragile vessel. 町の十字路に骨董店があった。And this was the line that said like in the... So let's just write what it... So how I usually translate. And for those of you who are ever curious about how I translate when I'm translating songs, I first just translate it like word to word almost, and then I try to rewrite it. So, 町の十字路に骨董店があった。There was a... Okay, and what am I saying? There was a antique shop at a crossroad. And this is the kind of other hard part. Japanese doesn't use as much singular and plural, and here I am using singular and singular. So we'll figure that. Oh, sorry, we'll figure that out later. Let's first just briefly translate it, and then we'll rewrite it. で、弱気ね、違う。陶器の完全音の像がexcuse me。陶器の完全音の像が店と道路の境に立っていた。There, let's just translate again. There was a ceramic kanzeon. We'll call it kanzeon. And then let's translate it. あれ何 okay. わかった。Protective. Let's just call it protective statue. Protective deity. But I think when I I'm the kind of person that doesn't like it. You know when if for those of you who watch like K-dramas or like even Japanese dramas, and you know when they translate senpai as upperclassmen, and you just want to like cry because you're like, why? Just leave the word senpai. Like more people know it, and if they don't know it, they'll learn it because it's used so often. Or like when they translate san or like kun and stuff, like things that are very common like culturally or like have like a special meaning culturally that I think kind of it doesn't make as much sense to translate it as much as it does to leave the original word and then just explain it so people know what the new word means. That's kind of how I feel about like this word. It feels like this word is really important, so I kind of want to keep it. Tristan, hello! Hi, Ro, long time no see, how are you? How's it going? So we're translating, so let's keep kanzeon. There was a ceramic kanzeon statue of a protective Buddhist deity. Let's say that for now. The ceramic kanzeon that stood between the store and the street. Let's write that. Okay. 12歳の少女の御嶽を持っている。It has, and this is the part that's hard. So in this writing, it's saying it has the form of a 12-year-old statue, but we're writing in past tense. And in English, you can't switch tenses like that. 時制を変えるのダメだね、英語でどうしよう。It had the form of a 12-year-old young girl. It had the 御嶽. Well, it's technically size, but here, let me look this up. I want to say form, not size. 御嶽. It's like the height. It had the height. I think this is something I have to look up later. Height. Let's bold this because I need to think of how to translate that. Had the height of a 12-year-old girl. 12-year-old young girl. 12-year-old young girl. That sounds like a jumbo shrimp. But anyway. 電車が通ると店のガラスと一緒に完全温の冷たい肌も細かく震える。電車が通ると when なんかさ okay, so the part right here is also interesting. 電車が通ると means like it's a pattern. It says that the pattern of, how do I say it? The writing style is like saying whenever a train goes by. But it's interesting because like it seems like this is the one time she's seeing it. When the train goes by, I'm just going to translate it. I'm not going to think too hard. When the train, forget the tenses. Let's just translate. Forget when the train goes by, the store's glass door and the cold skin of the kanzeon both shiver. Okay. I know this sounds really like not... I know, so this is the thing. When you translate first, like directly in English, things don't sound right. Like it sounds like kind of like stiff. It doesn't sound like very good writing in English. But it's okay. We'll go back through and we'll edit that. That's what I do when I'm translating. Bothers me when they translate San as Mr. and Miss. I know. I understand why they do it because it's probably the closest thing to have in English. But sometimes I think, isn't that a concept that works? Isn't that a concept that works as it does? I wonder. It's hard. It is what it is. It is how it is. Yeah, Doki Doki to Badam Badam in Ing-song cover kind of weird. Doki Doki as Badam Badam. Yeah, it's easier to just keep Doki Doki. Like instead of Badam Badam, like the sound for like heartbeats in English, it's way better, I think, to just keep Doki Doki. And just let people understand what that word means. There are times when I've done covers and you see me keep the original word. Because I just feel like the English word just doesn't do it justice or just doesn't feel as right. So you'll see that happen often. Okay, so let's go ahead and continue. なんか続きましょうね。どこだっけ私。ちょっと待って考えよう。何してたっけ。あ、そうだ。なんかさ、この時制が変わってるのに私時制変えてないっていう英語での難しさだね。どうしよう。後でちょっと考えよう。で、どこだっけ。その電車の動き方とかいろいろ言って震える。はい。その像が道に倒れやしまいかと私は前を過ぎるたびに軽く神経を痛めた。So worried that the statue, nervous that the statue might topple into the street, I took a step forward. That's a little off. It's like the happening is a little off. She's like walking while feeling this, so. She was like already taking a step forward, nervous that the statue might topple into the street. Let's just write it that way for now. Okay. And then this is the next part. カンゼヨンの体がまっすぐに私に向かって倒れかかってきた。The Kanzeon faced me head on, and leaned forward as if falling into me. There we go. That's how I'm gonna write it. まっすぐに私、まっすぐには head on だね。私に向かって faced me, right? Faced me head on, or like turned towards me head on. I think turned towards me head on sounds a little weird, so I'm gonna say faced me head on and lean forward. なんだっけ、倒れかかってきたっていうと like it's saying like it fell towards me, but it doesn't actually fall towards her. Like it doesn't actually fall down, so it doesn't finish the act of falling. So lean forward as if falling into me is how I'm gonna say it. Okay. Oh wait, I said I'm just gonna do this part. Why am I already moving on? Should I stop here? Should we stop here? Let's pause here. I think this is a good place to stop. Let's try to make this sound good. Okay, I think this is a good title. Fragile Vessel. Yeah, that's a good title. And we need to write the name. Ugh, where is this? Okay, let's write, wait, hold on, I have to write it in English style. Yasunari Kawabata. I feel so uncomfortable writing it like this, but yeah, this is how you write it in English. It's by Kawabata Yasunari-san. で、これ英語でもう川端さん、安成、大丈夫。はい。なんかさ、漢字を打てるっていうことすごい便利だね。なんかさ、やっぱ私漢字見たとき分かんなくても発音が分かるかというと意味が分かるかというどちらかでなんか書けるね、名前とか。There was an antique, so okay, let's start. There was an antique shop at the crossroads. Why am I singing? Because I can't see chat anymore. Hold on one second. I have lost it all. YouTube, 4つべ。Oh, sorry. You can stop if you need to. No, we'll finish here. We'll pause here and then we'll kind of go through this one and we'll try to make it sound good. There was an antique shop at a crossroad. There was a ceramic. This sounds so sad. Along, and now we're gonna make the sound nice. So okay, let's make the sound nice. なんかさ、今はなんか直接翻訳はしてますので、もっと綺麗な翻訳にしましょう、これを。There was an antique shop at a crossroad. At a crossroad. Wait. At the town's crossroad. We forgot town. At a town crossroad. We forgot town. At a town's crossroad, there was an antique shop. Is there anything different between saying at the town's crossroad there was an antique shop? I like starting with the place rather than saying there was an antique shop at the town's crossroad. I kind of like starting by saying at the town's crossroad there was this antique shop. There was a ceramic kanzeon statue of a protective Buddhist deity that stood between the store and the street. I think if we say there was an here, then maybe a ceramic kanzeon stood. Let's not even say there was a. We can just kind of imply it. A ceramic kanzeon stood between the store and the street. Yeah, a ceramic kanzeon, statue of a protective Buddhist deity, stood between the store and the street. I think this is better. Yeah, I like this better. Instead of saying there was a, we can just say a ceramic kanzeon stood between the store and the street. There was an antique shop at a town crossroad. Instead of saying at the town crossroad at the end, let's have it be at the beginning. So let's have at the town's crossroad, there was an antique shop. There was an antique shop. A ceramic kanzeon stood between the store and the street. Between the shop and the street. The antique shop. Oh, let's do this. Antique store. Why am I changing it? Because here, you know why? They say mise, and here they say kototen. And I kind of want to have that distinction. Have the store and shop be different. Because why not? Why not? It doesn't really mean anything deep, I don't think. But it's kind of cool that we can do that. We can say shop and store and they mean the same thing. It had the height of a 12-year-old. You know what's also true with something we can do? We can combine sentences. It doesn't have to be sentence by sentence. So let's combine these. A ceramic kanzeon. And then we'll have this. And here, no, let's do something else. Let's do this. Let's do it like more formal style. I like doing this. Let's do this. Let's make it like an afternote, like a footnote. A ceramic kanzeon. Footnotes are cool. I like footnotes because I'm in school. I use footnotes like an adult. Okay, anyway. A ceramic kanzeon. About the height. The height of a 12-year-old young girl stood between the shop and the street. Let's write it like this. I like this better. Sometimes, you know, there's some value to not giving all the information at once, but I think here it's okay to... I'm going to make the decision to combine these sentences. That might be something that some people disagree with, but I kind of like combining these sentences. So let's bold the words that we're going to be using. Okay. The ones that we are using so far. These are the sentences that we're using. Let's do this. Okay. When the train would go by, instead of when the train goes by, when the train would go by. Let's keep the tense. When the train would go by, the store's glass door and the cold skin of the kanzeon both shivered. I think this is okay, because this is present tense, but this is past tense. Toruto. Does this make sense? Does someone who knows English better than me tell me if this... Can someone tell me if this is okay tense? What is it? Not tense, but like it's okay. Yeah, I know what you mean, Christopher. I had that question in class too. We were talking about it. We were saying, you know, they're saying mitake. Mitake is very specifically like the length or like the height of something, right? It's not actually like how something looks. Like mitake very specifically means like the length. Like you use it kind of for clothing, but it's kind of how you measure something. Like it's a measure of the height. So it doesn't actually say that it looks like a 12-year-old girl, but it says it's the height of a 12-year-old girl. But the interesting thing about the kanzeon itself usually is that kanzeon, they look kind of feminine, right? So they kind of look like girls, but they're actually not really gendered. They're not supposed to be gendered. So kanzeon aren't actually male or like traditional gender norm, like how to say it, traditional male female sex like that. It's not supposed to be like gendered in that way. It's actually kind of gender neutral, I think, is how I've always understood it. It's like this idea of a deity, like at least, you know, it's a little different from Western, I think, religious cultures, but like deities don't necessarily have to have gender, I think, in like Asian context, at least from what I learned growing up. But I think like that's kind of the part here that's really like kind of challenging, is that I'm not sure if you're supposed to be able to know exactly if it's like it's supposed to be the size or the height of a 12-year-old girl, 12-year-old young girl. But it's also kind of left up to your kind of understanding or interpretation whether or not it actually is the form of a girl or not. But I think it's supposed to be slightly, at least you saw the image I shared earlier. And for anybody who didn't see it earlier, where is my kanzeon? Where's my kanzeon? Oh, it's on the... Sorry, let me switch screens really quick so I can show it to you guys. For those who didn't see, this is how the kanzeon looks, right? So you see, it's not really gendered. It's not supposed to be gendered, but it kind of looks a little bit feminine. Traditionally feminine, I think. So, with that in mind, right? So, yeah, it's a little left eye. Why does my face always take a second? Listen, I lag. My face lags because it's too high quality for the screen. So, let's go back to continue to translate. But that's a really good question. I said I pride myself in my grammar. Really? I'm glad. You know how they say you're not supposed to mix, like, what is it? Like, when the train would go by the store's glass door and the cold skin of the kanzeon both shiver. Yeah, because it's kind of, I want to showcase the mix of tenses a little bit without actually making it feel too odd in English. I was already taking a step forward, nervous that the statue might topple into the street. This is the part that's kind of hard to translate. The sentence is kind of long. その像が街に倒れやしまいかと. And she's like, oh, what if it falls in the street? 私が前を過ぎるたびに軽く神経を痛めた. I almost want to say she's kind of reaching out to like kind of settle the statue. I think nervous that the statue might topple into the street. Did you just see how I spelled street? What even? Treat? Can I get a treat? I want chalky. Street. I was already taking a step forward, nervous. Yeah, I was already forward. 神経を痛める。どうやって翻訳すればいいそれ。I don't know how to say 神経を痛める。神経を痛める。I'm glad at least someone here prides themselves on their grammar, Christopher, because I'm so bad with my grammar. I mean, I think my grammar is not good. I don't know anymore. 神経を痛める。英語でどうやって書けばいいもう本当に。英語。Let's look it up. Let's see what other people use. Like, this is what I do. I Google if I'm really unsure about how to you know how Google translates this? Google translates this as nerve pain, but that's not exactly what it means. That's not the right translation. Hold on. Deep L. Let's check Deep L. What does Deep L 様 say? なんかさ、英語で見たら、なんか翻訳、Google 翻訳で見たらちょっと変な意味が出てるんだけど、Deep L さんで翻訳したらどういう意味が出るんだろう。Be a pain in the nerves. Ah! Deep L did it! Deep L says worry oneself about. There we go. It gave the other definition. Worry oneself about. これは合ってるね。Yeah, so worry oneself. So being nervous or to be worried is what we said, right? I understood it correctly. That's nice. Taking a worried step. I was worried step forward. I took a worried step forward. Thinking. Let's not say nervous. Let's just say thinking that the statue. Because she doesn't actually say she's worried here. She says that その像が倒れしまいかと. Which is like might unfortunately topple into the street. Fortunately topple into the street. I took a step forward. This is one of the hardest things to translate into English, is this concept of something being kind of worrisome. Like, for example, I'll give you some. This is a really interesting concept in Japanese, and it's used a lot, by the way, so it's kind of important. So, let's say you eat like let's say you really like, I don't know, pudding. You really like pudding, okay? And your little sister, your cute little sister, who looks kind of like me. Okay, your little sister had left some pudding in the fridge. That she wanted to eat. And you came home one day and you were tired and you were hungry and there was nothing else but that pudding in the fridge and you ate it. You ate your little sister's pudding. How could you? Okay, you ate the pudding. Okay, you ate the freaking pudding. And I come home and I'm like, excuse me? Where's my pudding? And you're like, ごめん、食べちゃったわ. So, to eat in Japanese is 食べる, right? Is to eat. To have eaten, past tense, right? To eat, the past tense of to eat in Japanese is 食べた. So you might be like, well, why didn't my brother, your sister, or whatever, my sister, my brother, my older sibling, not just say, oh, I ate the pudding. They said, oh, I did the terrible thing of eating the pudding. So 食べる, 食べた, but the word we use is 食べてしまった. 食べてしまった. しまった is like this idea of having done something that you is kind of bad, not bad, but like the outcome of having done it is kind of unfortunate. 食べてしまった means like, oh, like the outcome of having eaten it was bad. So you don't just say, yeah, 私食べた. You can say, まあ、私食べたよ, but you're kind of nice to your little sister. You're not mean. You're not just like, I ate it. You're like, like, it's like this idea of like, I'm sorry I ate it. Like kind of like encompassed in this one word. So you're like saying like, oh, the outcome of it is unfortunate because I ate it, right? I end up eating your choco. Sorry, not sorry. I'm gonna cry. My choco. My chalky pudding. How could you? So this concept of teshimatta is really, really important in Japanese. And it's kind of important here because it's like, how do I translate that in English? Because you don't really have a similar concept. We don't really have the similar concept of like having unfortunately done something. I did it, whoops. Sort of like 食べてしまった. Or for example, let's say you're reading, like you're studying for a test and you're so sleepy and you fell asleep and you woke up and you're like, frick, I fell asleep. When you say it like that, you're like, frick, I fell asleep. Or like, crap, I fell asleep. Like people know that you did not want to fall asleep or sleeping was not a good thing. But if you just said, oh, I slept, people will be like, oh, that's good for you then, I guess, right? Like, glad you got some sleep. But like, that wasn't a good thing that you fell asleep. You were studying, right? So in that situation, you wouldn't say, neta wa, or like, neta yo, or like, neta. You wouldn't just say, I slept. You'd say, nete shimatta. I slept. Frick, I slept, right? So it's kind of like, think of it in English as saying, frick, I did it, right? Frick, I did something. Or like, F, I did something. Or crap, I did something. So here it's like, crap, I ate it. Right? Or like, crap, I fell asleep. But in this case, it's like saying the unfortunate thing or the unfortunate outcome of it falling over. It would fall over and that's a bad thing. We don't want the statue to fall over, right? So, 倒れやしまいかと. 倒れてしまうかと. 倒れやしまいかと. So, how do I say that in English, guys? I don't know. Thinking that the statue might unfortunately topple into the street, I took a worried step forward. Let's just call it that for now. I don't know. This feels so unnatural to say unfortunately topple or like unfortunately something might happen. But I don't know how else to say it. I will say it like this for now. So far at the town's crossroad, there was an antique store. A ceramic kanzeon, the height of a 12-year-old young girl, stood between the shop and the street. When this train would go by, the store's glass door and the cold skin of the kanzeon both shiver. Thinking that the statue might unfortunately topple into the street, I took a worried step forward. That's our translation. When the train would go by, the store's glass door and the cold skin of the kanzeon would both shiver. Would both shiver, let's say that. But I don't want to say would both, I just want to say both because I don't want it to all be past tense. I want her to be like interacting with it in present tense. This is really hard. I'm struggling a bit with this. Okay, this is what I have so far. Can I do this? I can do this. Okay. Let's erase this and then comment here. Ta-da! Little comment. Look! Statue of a protected Buddhist deity. Little comment. Okay, cool. So when I translate it, I'm going to put it at the bottom. I think this is what we have so far. That's not bad, right? That's not bad, right? What do you guys think? Let's erase this part now that we have kind of a good little story going. This is what we have so far. This is what we have so far. Yeah. Wow, we did it. We translated the first paragraph. What do you guys think? What do we think? Pretty good, pretty good. Does it sound, so here's the goal. Does it sound natural in English while still being accurate to what we just read? Does it sound natural? Should I read it slowly now? Okay. I'll first read it in let's just read it in English. Do you guys want me to read the Japanese again? I don't know. Do you guys want me to read the Japanese again? I can read it again if you want, but let's read the English. Fragile Vessel by Yasunari Kawabata-san. I feel bad saying it without san or something. What is this? What just happened? Okay. At the town's crossroad, there was an antique store. A ceramic kanzeon, the size of a 12-year-old young girl, stood between the shop and the street. When the train would go by, the store's glass door and the cold skin of the kanzeon both shiver. Thinking that the statue might unfortunately topple into the street, I took a worried step forward. I think that works. Yeah, I think that works. It seems natural to me. I'm glad. Okay, good. And this is... wait, we forgot the last part. We forgot the last part. How do I do like a long dash? How do I do a long dash? That was the dream I saw. Right? We got this long stash. Long dash, not long stash. What am I saying? Long dash. So was the dream I saw. So was the dream I saw. That's how the dream I saw. I would like you to read the Japanese too. Okay. Seems professional. I'm glad. I'm glad. I will say what I study in school has a lot to do with the English language. It's not English my major is not English literature, but it's kind of like a lot to do with English language, so it's kind of important that my English is decent, but my grammar is actually kind of bad. Yoaki utsu wa bai, bai, bai. Kawabata Yasunari-san. Okay, let's read through this. Let's read through this together. 町の十字路に骨董店があった。陶器の観世音の像が店と道路の境に立っていた。12歳の少女の御嶽を持っている。電車が通ると店のガラス戸と一緒に観世音の冷たい肌も細かく震える。その像が道に倒れやしまいかと私は前を過ぎるたびに軽く神経を痛めた。そうして見た夢。Yeah. Yeah. Was that okay? Was that okay? Tis the Nihongo. My accent might be a little off for the words I've not learned growing up, but yeah, I hope that was like an interesting little exercise. Maybe next time we'll do something that's like a little easier, a little simpler, and we'll go through it a little faster. The translation sounds close to the Japanese. I'm so glad. That's my goal. That's my goal. That's my goal. Yeah, I hope you like doing this. I know this was a harder text, and I know like this is my first time doing something like this, so I wasn't sure exactly how I wanted to go about it, but I think I have a better idea of how to do this kind of stream now. So next time we do it, we'll do it like with something that's like not my homework, something that's a little more modern and a little more like maybe simple, more N4, N3 level instead of like N2, N3 level. And we'll have fun translating it. Maybe we'll pick something that's like a good short story to like translate. Yeah, that was good. I'm glad. No worries, Orange. Thanks for dropping by. Have a good day. Have a good rest of your day. Bye. But yeah, I think we'll pause here. I'll probably finish the rest of this on my own tomorrow or later this week. Who knows? Maybe I'll do like a random Twitch stream while I'm just finishing it up, or maybe a random YouTube stream while I finish it up. I'm not sure, but I'll probably just like finish it up next week. Yeah, maybe we will do a YouTube stream. It'll just be like a girlist stream as I'm working on it, and we can go through it. But I want to probably finish it next time I do it, at least lightly enough. Yeah, but I hope you liked this. I hope this was kind of interesting. I know it was a little complicated, but I hope it was interesting. Yeah. Any thoughts? Anything you guys want me to clarify or remind you or explain or like translate again or anything like that? I know it's a little small on the screen, but I hope it's kind of visible. My face is not blocking it. Here we go. Maybe that makes it a little bigger. Yeah, I hope that this is an interesting exercise. I'll move it around so my head is maybe blocking a lot of it actually. I realized. Hold on. My brain, my big head, my fat head. Is my head. Where's chat? Let's move chat up a little. Oh, chat. My chat. Let's do this. Wee. Chat appears. Chat is back. Oh, missed this one. Would be super interested in the next time you do it. Oh, Phoebe, no worries. Next time I think I'll do a slightly more relatable and easier one. Is this on the internet for free? I don't think so. I don't think it is, unfortunately. But maybe you can take a look at it on stream and kind of work with it as you see it on stream. Unfortunately, I don't think this one is free. But I think for education wise, you're supposed to be allowed to like use it. So I can see if I can maybe post it in the Discord. But you know, with the mindset that we're only using this to like learn. Remember, copyright is important and we want to protect the author's copyright, but I know that it's like one page of this book, so I think I can try to post it in the Discord if you'd like to take a look, Christopher. Yeah, no worries. But yeah, unfortunately, I think this is from a short story collection, and this is one of the works in it. Yeah, and we did it for class, so there's a lot of like rules surrounding copyright and fair use, and education is a type of fair use, but it's also kind of strict. So yeah, it's that's why like we have to be more careful if we use something that's like more modern, that's not like, you know, just for fun. That's why like if I go through it on stream with you guys, it's okay. But if I just kind of like put it up, I'm like, yeah, you guys can just look at it, like that's kind of illegal. But yeah, no worries, because I'll put it in the Discord. I'll put it in where should I put it? Maybe I'll put it in general not JP. I'll put it in the Discord maybe. Yeah, I can put it in the Discord. I can put it with the stream announcement, and I can pin it, so then you can just like grab it, and if that's okay, we'll do that. I have a little word list for it too, so I can upload that as well. Yeah, for like some of the harder words in the story. Yeah. But maybe you'll enjoy looking them up on your own rather than just looking at the translation of the words. You might have more fun looking up each word as you're reading. Yeah. Okay. I think that was all I had for today. Let's go back to the other screen, maybe? No? We'll just leave it here. We can just leave it here. We don't have to go back switching screens so many times. We can just be here. Okay, I'll make myself big again. Wow, where's my pointer? Wee. Hi, it's me. It's the Rovro. Hello. I'm covering up half the text right now. Hello. Okay, guys, thank you so much. Like I said, I know this is a little complicated, but thanks for sticking it out with me. I hope it was still interesting in some way. I love using Japanese, and I think sometimes it's hard, I realize, to explain some of the finer grammar concepts that are involved in this, because like I know I go through them and I explain them really fast, but I don't really get to give you examples of how to use certain grammar concepts, except for like the couple that I explained in specifics, like the teshimau or like the temiru. I think are stuff you would have learned in like your first year or second year Japanese class probably. I'm not really sure, but I'm sure they're like N5, N4 level, so hopefully next time we can maybe take something that's a little more simple, easier, and uses more basic stuff and go through it little by little. And I can maybe plan out a little lesson. If it's like really simple stuff, I don't mind planning out a little lesson and going through it with you guys. Maybe you guys can tell me in the Discord in the suggestions or something what you want to learn in Japanese, like what concept, if there's like a grammar thing you want to go through together, or like some kind of concept or some kind of sentence you want to like work through together. We can do that together. Maybe we can go sentence by sentence, like a few different like random sentences, and learn to translate them together. Yeah, that's what I have in mind. Okay, that's all I got. Thank you for the hearts, Jury and K4. Thank you all so much for joining me and hanging out with me, studying with me. If you were watching along or if you were just listening along while you're doing your own work, I hope your work went well. I hope you got a lot done. I hope you had a good time with me. Yeah, and I hope you get a chance, if you're interested in Japanese, to do this on your own. Tristan, I just got here. I'm so sorry. I'm about to wrap up. I'm sorry. Birdie, thank you for the heart. Shaka, thank you for the heart. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you. So for next week, we'll probably do, I don't know exactly what we're doing. Oh yeah, next week we'll definitely be finishing building the last two Pokemon from the nano blocks that we did last week. So we'll be finishing those two Pokemon, and then there's a couple other things we'll do. But next week we'll be streaming probably once in the middle of the week, and then Friday, Saturday. So it'll be once in the middle of the week and then Friday, Saturday. So it might be Thursday, Friday, Saturday next week. Probably around the same time as today. Thursday, Friday, I'll probably stream at the same time as today, around 4 or 5 p.m. Pacific, which is 7 or 8 p.m. Eastern, which is 12 midnight or 1 a.m. UTC, which is 9 or 10 p.m. or 9 or 10 a.m. Japan time. So that's what I'll be streaming on Thursday, Friday. Saturday, I'll probably be streaming around lunchtime, which is around when we did the Apex thing. So middle of the day, like breakfast, lunch kind of time. So hope you guys will get a chance to join. But yes, at least one of the streams will be Nano Block building, finishing up the last two. We have Charizard and we have the other Lapras. And then maybe we can do another not Nihongo session. Maybe not next week, but the week after we can plan one. I'll have to take a look and think, but we can figure out. And then I don't know what else I'm doing next week. I haven't planned fully yet. Wait, hold on. I actually wrote it down. Should I see what I wrote down? Wait, 1 second. Let me see. I wrote down my plans for next week, and then I don't remember them. This is why I write them down, guys, because I'm dumb. What was it? The plan for next week. Oh, wait, I have this thing that says fairy tale children's story ASMR reading. Should I do a fairy tale children's story ASMR reading? Is that something you guys would like? Fairy tale children's story ASMR reading? What? I don't know when I planned. Why did I plan this? I think it was gonna be an ASR novel reading sort of thing. No worries, Boogie. I'm just about to wrap up. Hi, someone. Hello. Welcome. I'm just about to wrap up, but yeah, next week I'll see what we'll do. But the schedule will be up on Monday. Yeah, schedule will be up on Monday or Tuesday at the latest, but probably Monday this week. Yeah, so the day after tomorrow, the schedule will be up. But yes, マジありがとうございます。いやいや、全然。私あんま教えてあげれたかはわかんないけど。I don't know if I was able to teach you much. あんまり教えてあげられなかったと思うけどね。ごめんね。Yeah, but I hope that, you had fun. 来てくださいましてありがとうございます。楽しかったよ。難しかったけど楽しかったよ。楽しかったけど。Yeah. But I hope we get to do another Japanese stream at some point. I'll pick something a little more simple and easy next time. But thanks for doing my homework with me, hanging out and doing homework with me. It's nice to not do it alone. At my desk, being like, "Wah, I don't know anything. Wah." But I hope you had fun. おつどちです。お疲れ様です。Hope you look forward to the schedule on Monday or Tuesday, and have a good rest of your weekend. Have a relaxing Sunday or Saturday evening, and I'll catch you all very, very soon next week. Thank you for Choco. Thank you, Boogie, for Choco. I don't know if I'll remember anything, but I hope you all said I had a lot of fun. I always love streaming. I always love hanging out with you guys on stream. But yeah, no worries. Don't worry if you don't remember anything. At least it's exposure. It's getting a chance to interact with stuff that you might not otherwise. But thank you, Mina. Thank you, Fernie. Bye, guys. Have a good rest of your weekend. Bye.